Tonight's guests are Bill Munns, Mike Hsu, and Chris Reinhardt.
Looking back on the life that you're leaving, let it rest in a hole in the ground. Stick around for the great revealing, or the fire you've been dancing around. All we hear is the sound of retreating. No one cares where you're coming from. My ears are still ringing and bleeding. I guess we all knew from the start. These are the days my heart goes numb. You know, one of these days will be the one. We're looking for answers. Oh, what a disaster. These are the days my heart goes numb. My heart goes numb. Breathing the fumes of the ashes, the spirits light up the night, looking down the edge of
We're live from the Untold Radio Network. It's Untold Radio AM with MonsterQuest producer, host Doug Hajicek, and co-host Jeff Perrella Jr. Untold Radio AM is going live right now.
This show is for entertainment purposes only. Yep, that's the ticket. Now here are your Untold Radio AM hosts, Doug Hajicek and Jeff Perrella Jr.
And here we are. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hey, Chris.
Hello. Hey,
Good
guys.
to see
Thanks
you.
for having me along tonight. I'm looking forward to
Absolutely.
it.
Happy to have you here.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Untold Radio, where we dig a little bit deeper into stories, theories unexplained, and, Jeff, none of it's verified.
It's all unverified crap.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all for entertainment purposes only. So you're going to want to sit back and enjoy the ride, right? Right. There you go. By the way, those T-shirts are being made up, and there's a few of them going out to people.
You're home for unverified crap.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Based on the new rules, if you know what I mean. Anyhow, welcome all of you very loved Untoldians.
Mm-hmm.
I see Eric said something about Untoldians, and I saw it pop up there. Yes, we are. And if you're not an Untoldian, you need to subscribe.
Please.
Please, we really would appreciate it.
Be part of the gang. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, it's quite a joy to be a mother. It's a joy to be a father. So I can only imagine the extra work it is to be a mother. So please give thanks to your mother.
Yep.
They did a lot of work for you.
Sure did. I'm
Oh,
lucky
my
to see my mom yesterday and this morning. It was great.
Yeah, well, very cool. There's a lot of people I know who are remembering their late mother.
Yeah.
They're still getting together, with family. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tonight we have a special event. We're going to dig deep, hopefully without any technical problems. We're already having a few.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll
Sure
get them
are.
solved. We're going to dig deep into the PGF controversy started by Southwest Films on claiming they found footage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Framed as rehearsal footage.
Mm-hmm.
Keyword framed. Well,
Mhm.
we're going to frame it as something different. So
Unverified crap.
unverified. Yeah, it's unverified. So they're saying the PGF film is all fake based on framing, just framing something. Well, you could frame it any way you want. One, I love the found footage theory because didn't that start with the Blair Witch Project?
That's kind of the first big one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, of course, all verified.
That was really clever
Right,
marketing,
Chris?
to be honest.
Wasn't the Blair Witch Project?
They had everybody convinced when it first came out that it was real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody, they did a great PR work on that.
Yeah.
For sure. And
Outstanding.
I think that's what's going on right now myself. I think it's a huge PR move just to.
Sure.
Anyways,
Well, we're gonna dig deep into all sorts of unverified claims.
Yeah.
But I do know this. I do want to add this. Every lost or found footage show I've ever seen, or doc or whatever, it sparked a whole lot of projects, have all been BS. Every one of them. Name one that was real, where they found secret footage and then it was real.
I can't think of any.
No, I can't either. So apparently this will be the first. Anyhow, but generally speaking, all found footage is, B as in B, S as in S, generally, like the Blair Witch Project. So yeah, and that did spark a ton of things. Oh my God, I remember that on Discovery Channel and History Channel, and everybody was hopping on the found footage bandwagon. I mean, I don't think that donkey flies anymore. I don't think it does. I haven't seen anything for a long time. This is the first again.
Plus, AI has thrown a wrinkle into everything.
You think?
Yeah.
You think? Oh.
Can't believe anything you see anymore.
So anyhow, tonight we'll be bringing on Bill Munns, a career film and special effects expert, and the man who has studied the Patterson-Gimlin film since about 2008. And we hope to dive way deeper than others have, right? That's our goal.
His book on it is just outstanding.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
Well, he's been interviewed on this topic, and if you've seen other interviews, there was a lot of questions that were not asked, a lot of topics that were not brought up. So we're going to bring up all those.
Yeah, he's worked in a lot of great movies way back, like he worked
yeah.
on Swamp Thing and Beastmaster was like one of my big time favorite movies when I was a kid. I watched that movie about 3 million times.
On USA Network, I bet.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to meeting him and talking to him.
Me too.
For sure.
And then then we're gonna also be joined by Michael Hsu. And Michael Hsu is a man I've known for many, many, many years. I think going on 30, believe it or not. Hard to believe. And he'll be joining us. And he is a man who managed to get Legend Meets Science published when it was an uphill battle. He got it not only published, but he got Legend Meets Science published by a mainstream publisher. He is behind his back. I call him the pit bull, right? And he is a pit bull.
He's effective, that's for sure.
Well, he's a very. He missed his calling. He should have been a full-time detective because he digs up stuff and he's relentless. And so we'll be bringing Michael on shortly. And then, of course, I have studied the Patterson-Gimlin footage since the 90s. Obviously gearing up for Legend Meets Science. I absolutely did not want to feature that film in my show and then have it all end up with egg on my face. So I dove really deep into it. I developed new technology to study it. I did all sorts of things. I contacted everything from surgeons to kinesiologist people to people that study gaits of like Parkinson patients, German scientists. I can go on and on and on. Animators. And a lot of it was the more I studied it, the more I couldn't, not only could I not debunk it, because it's what I always set out to do. You have to approach it that way. You've got to try to debunk it. You got to look for any flaws. You got to score it. I couldn't find one, not one, in years and years of close-up forensic work, including bringing other forensic people in on it. And Bill Munns was, by the way, one of the forensic people that I called in 2008 and said, Bill, I want you to study this film. In fact, I remember the conversation quite well. I want you to study the film and just get back with me with the truth. I felt he was very qualified. He knew things. I would see things that showed me some really weird things like, tendons and muscles and things like that. But I thought, well, maybe Bill can see something I'm not seeing and, call it a hoax or whatever. Either way, the truth will always make the best story. Always. In fact, just to give people, anybody listening right now, a perspective on it, me and Bill recently debunked a major internet myth or a piece of footage everybody thought was real. And me and Bill recently, at great cost to me, cost me about $8,000 to get the negative, another piece of actual film, where there's a negative to study. And we'll get into that very, very shortly. In fact, we'll show you the results. We've never showed the results. But not only did we debunk it, it'll be featured in Legend Meets Science for anybody not watching this program. But if you're watching this program, we'll give you a sneak peek. But let's see here. I'm trying to think where we're going to go here next with the show. Then we have Chris, of course, Chris Reinhardt, who is with Real American Monsters. Chris is taking a short break for the summer, but he'll be back in the fall. And Chris is a, boots on the ground researcher. He's the guy that's had many encounters with the actual creature. And a lot of the skeptics have said, now the Bigfoot, the whole mystery is solved, right? It's always that same argument. The mystery is solved. We've debunked the Patterson footage again for like the 10th time. Every 10 years, somebody debunks it. And it always goes away right back to, show me the suit. So Chris knows they're real, obviously, from Real Encounters. He recently went on a Snell Grove, another one. We went on 2 of them. And so that's why Chris is here. Chris is here to help kind of moderate and bring facts and things about the creature. And, of course, I don't think have you ever just studied the Patterson footage, Chris?
No, I've never just sat down. No.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. So he's going to bring that perspective tonight. And obviously people are saying, well, gee, Hajicek, you got a lot of stuff at stake. No, I don't. The only thing I ever have at stake is the truth. That's the only thing. I just gave up this thing we're going to show you later on. I gave up a whole project by me debunking it. So I gave up a whole show that I was going to get financed by the History Channel based on this. And I purposely got to the truth because it's all I cared about. And we'll show you that. And Bill helped, obviously.
That takes a lot, though. You put a lot on the line. Everybody that talks about this week after week after week, you're putting you on the line. You're putting you out there. But the truth is what matters. It doesn't matter. That's what matters in this whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And the people that try and knock you down because you're telling the truth, and you know what? They're not after the truth. They're after to knock people down. That's what they're after. You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you my intentions are pure. And I have literally, when I say I probably have 1,000 hours into the Patterson, the PGF film over the years, I don't think I'm exaggerating. Probably goes way over that. And I thought people thought I was nuts. I would just night after night after night and just keep watching things forward, reverse, slow-mo, close-up, And the more I studied it, the more I realized it was a real creature, which you can tell when you look at it for that 3-second rule. It's like, Chris, if I put somebody in a tiger suit, I don't care how good that suit is, you're going to know it's a guy in a tiger suit.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You're just going to know by all of the jillions of little things that fire in our brains that tell us things we can't even put on paper. That's not real. And that's why some of us are very good at that. I'm really good. I've got a BS meter you wouldn't believe. And I can tell immediately when something's a real living creature. Now, I feel qualified also because I'm a wildlife photographer. I've been studying wildlife my whole life professionally. God, that goes on since the 80s. I've been a wildlife photographer. And I've worked with the best world-renowned wildlife photographers. I know an animal when I see an animal. I know what hair looks like in the sun, what fur looks like. what movement, natural movement looks like, the muscles of animals, you can tell. And anybody who thinks they can't, I mean, go watch even an animated project like, what's a good, The Revenant, right? With Leonardo DiCaprio is getting attacked by a grizzly bear, and it's animated. Well, you know instantly it's an animated bear. Pretty easy to tell.
Jaws is another one.
Yeah. You just know. I don't care how good you are at special effects. And that's why I would say, if you want to prove the Patterson footage is fake, make another suit using even today's technology, and do a rehearsal, a reenactment, do something that's going to make me go, well, show me the leg twisting, show me this tightrope walk, show me so many things, the tendons, the muscles, the breasts, the weight, the extreme weight when it makes a step, and you see the jar of the fat jiggling, not the
head
suit
being in
jiggling.
scale. I mean, there's just so much.
Show me that. If you've got that's the only thing that's going to convince me, other than maybe if it was a detailed confession by somebody, and I'll bring it up later again, but I offered Bob Gimlin $1 million to tell me how they did this. And I had it authorized by my television station or network that I was working for. They authorized it. I turned around, I offered it to Bob, and Bob immediately, without even thinking, he goes, Doug, I'd love to take your money, but let me just tell you again what happened. And I had to sit there now and listen again to the whole story, because there was no hesitation. Back then, that was a lot of money, and he didn't even think about it.
It's still a lot of money.
Huh?
It's still a lot of money.
Well, yeah, it's still a lot of money, but back then it was a whole lot more money. Right. But the point is, you would expect somebody who was on some type of hoax is going to think about it a little bit and say, well, let me get back to you about that, let me have some privacy here, whatever. They're going to be caught off guard, and I did catch them off guard. So we'll get into that too. Anyhow, what else did I want to talk about before we move on here? I want to mention to all of our moderators, look out for anybody who's not being civil. You can disagree with us. That's no problem, but do it in a polite way. Don't attack people. No problem. You can ask questions. You can do whatever. But if you attack anybody, you're going to get removed. And so all the moderators, and those are all the people with wrenches. We got lots of wrenches in here tonight. They're going to get rid of you. So, and I don't have any respect for people who are just mean to people.
Right.
There's no reason for it. Be respectful. Let's debate this tonight. Do it respectfully. If you have concerns, then bring them up, and we'll have the experts to answer your questions. All right. Trying to think. Anyhow, I hired Bill in 2008 to do whatever he had to do. And I was actually quite shocked, to be honest, that he just came back and started, telling me like, gee, this is real. This is looking like, I can't even imagine how anybody could even get in the suit. Even preliminary tests he was doing. He was, giving me information, but I was like, just get the truth, Bill. Whatever. I gave him, I don't know what it was, a month and a half, 2 months. That I don't remember that detail. But when he said things like, human skull won't even come near to even fitting in the head. That's kind of interesting. He's the guy that knows that stuff. He made heads. So he said it would have had to have a high forehead. All right. So let's see where we're going to go. We do have Bill.
Bill's there. Yep.
Whoa. Let's go ahead and do our news, or should we just get into it? I don't care.
I kind of want to just get into it.
Let's get into it then. Let's do it.
All right.
I don't have any problem with that.
Looks like Mike and Bill are both ready.
Yeah, let's bring them on. Okay. So we know who Michael is. He's the pit bull of Legend Meets Science, and Michael can tell a little bit more. He does have a very formal education, and He is trained in many things, but I'm not sure it's about the Bigfoot footage, but he's been investigating things that have been getting results that have just shocked me. So anyhow, let's welcome Mike. Get Mike on. Hey, Mike. And now Bill Munns. Jeff, do you want to read his bio real quick? I sent you a short one. I've got a copy here too.
You did. I got to find it.
Oh, I've got it right here. I think.
I don't
there
have
it is.
ready.
I got it.
You got it
All
ready?
right.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So Munns has been active in the industry since 1969, starting at Universal Studios under the mentorship of Mike Westmore. He is known for his contributions to films such as The Return of the Living Dead, 1985, Beastmaster, 1982, Swamp Thing, 1982. But what I was impressed with is his museum work, his amazing busts, his amazing life-size replicas of things like Gigantopithecus and of early humans and things like that. That's like, wow, these things looked alive when Bill was done with them. So hopefully he'll mention that. His expertise extends to creating full body suits, fur costumes, masks, animatronics. Could you imagine what it would take to build an animatronic of some kind of a creature for various movies, TV shows, and commercials? Munns has also made significant contributions to cryptozoology, particularly in analyzing the Patterson-Gimlin film, a famous piece of footage purportedly showing a Bigfoot. He has compiled a comprehensive image database related to this film, pioneering new avenues of investigation. And that's what I love about Bill. When I was doing my investigation, didn't have any crossover on what Bill was doing. So let's welcome the one and only Bill Munns.
Welcome, Mr. Munns. Welcome, sir.
Do you hear me?
We
Yes, sir.
hear you and see you.
Oh, okay, fine.
So anyhow,
Finally
welcome.
got the technical stuff worked out.
Yeah. And Bill is coming from us live all the way from Vietnam, somewhere, which is amazing technology. It would be great to
Yes,
get
it
you
is.
closer to the camera, Bill. I don't know if that's possible. If you can scoot closer to your camera, it'd be nice. You're way in the distance. There you go. Well, that's better. So anyhow, with that, we got Bill on. We got Michael Hsu. Michael, do you want to just do us like a really quick intro to yourself, other than the pit bull?
Oh yeah, I just put my new nickname on there.
The pit bull. I
Sweet.
love it.
Love it.
I don't know where to start.
You've done a lot of things.
I'll just stick to the Bigfoot stuff. I've been kind of interested in this since kind of back when when in high school or in college, not even in college, in middle school or elementary school, where
Right.
we'd see these videos and they do these 16 millimeter film reels, trying to teach us stuff, and we get these little books that you could buy, and it just. There'd be some things on UFOs. There'd be some things on Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, things like that. So I probably bought some of those books way back when and just got
Yeah, you've had an interest, but you've always been a skeptic on Bigfoot. You just have been.
Well, that's probably because of all the hours I spent at your house in your basement. Doug would be, I heard you say earlier that you probably put 1,000 hours in on Patterson-Gimlin film. I'd say maybe 2,000 or more, because I lived basically next door to Doug, and I would get these phone calls at whatever time during the day or night, weekends, weekdays, whatever. Hey, you got to come over. And so then I'd zip over there, and he'd show me something, and one that comes to mind is the golf ball, what I called the golf ball in the pocket.
Right.
Where
The hernia.
Yeah, the hernia, where he'd run this thing forwards and backwards and show it to me and zoom in, zoom out, all these things. And my wife even came over for some of those. sessions. But anyway, so I've always been a skeptic. When the iPhone came out, or cell phones came out, I said, oh, the iPhone's going to capture the next real Bigfoot footage since the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Right.
And of course, the iPhone's been out since 2008 or 2009, and we haven't seen it yet. And yet they're filming movies on iPhones now. And, you know, so I if I haven't talked to Doug in a while, I'll call Doug up and I'll say, hey, Doug, what's going on? Where's the new footage? Or how come no one's found any footage yet? You know, the cameras are good enough. It's just, I mean, we'll hear from Bill how good the 16 millimeter is. But I think in terms of digital film, the iPhone probably has the best cameras of the day. And I'm sure the other guys, Samsung or whoever is catching up really quick. But the question is, where's that next piece of footage coming?
Well, I hope it doesn't come from a cell phone with that 3.6 millimeter lens. It won't be much. You look at Bill. Bill's like 3 feet, 2 feet from his camera. Look how far away he is. That's a small lens for you.
We joke around about blob squatches and stuff like that. But you know, I've been fascinated by the Patterson-Gimlin film, and that's what got me involved. And when Jeff Meldrum, you know, was on your show, and when I met Jeff, you know, and I basically suggested to Doug, hey, Doug, there's this book that my son at the time he was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. And there was this thing called Shark Week on Discovery Channel, right? And Shark Week produced a companion book, which my wife and I saw at a Barnes & Noble somewhere, and we bought it. And I brought it over to show Doug. I said, hey, Doug, you need a book. He goes, yeah, you're right. And guess what? You're going to do it. And so
I think I answered you pretty quick. So we did the doc, and Mike did the book, for Jeff. Jeff wrote it. Mike got it done.
Jeff wrote it, and Jeff passed away last year. And so I kind of got back involved a little bit, you know, after he passed. And I'll just say one thing about this new, like, lost footage or found footage.
Well, you're going to have time to say lots of things, Mike.
Okay. I won't even, I'll save it then. But,
save it.
Okay, I'll save it. And so I've been, since this new documentary came out, I've been getting deeper involved because Jeff passed away. Jeff wrote the book. I was effectively the first editor of the book. After we sold it, we got another editor, but that editor just basically did the grammar checking and spell checking and formatting and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's the Sasquatch Legend Meets Science. Jeff Meldrum did a great job putting it together. And
let me announce right now. I mean, we're planning on finishing. Jeff has got a great start. He had a great start when he passed on Legend Meets Science 2, and our goal is to get that finished and published. So you can look forward to Legend Meets Science 2 book at some point soon. So,
yeah, that's one thing I failed on, and Jeff was kind of mad at me because we always intended to update the book. But the publisher just kind of didn't want to, for whatever reason. We lost the original guy who acquired the book from us, and then we haven't been able to find another contact there that's interested in doing another one. And then Jeff passed away, so my understanding.
Well, the new update will be the new book.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, let's switch over to Bill Munns here. Bill, you were kind of waiting there. Bill. I don't know if we want to waste a ton of time about how you got involved. I covered a little bit of that. I know that you have probably, you've continued to contribute to the film. I believe you got grants even to study more aspects of it. So why don't you pick it up from the I guess the MonsterQuest days, and kind of move forward and give us this kind of a rough history there.
Well, okay. As you mentioned, for my film industry background, the most relevant thing is the fact that it prepared me to analyze the Patterson film in a way that no other researcher before me had ever attempted or was capable of. The evidence is a 16 millimeter film, okay? It's not a footprint, even though there are footprints, but let's focus on the film. So the evidence is a 16 millimeter film. To analyze it properly, you need to be a 16 millimeter film maker, which I was early in my years starting out. And the second controversy is the simple fact that the subject figure we see in the film, a lot of people think it's a human in a fur costume, an ape suit, as we often call it. In order to properly analyze that question, it takes a person who's actually designed and built and worked ape suits and various costumes on motion picture sets. And once again, I happen to be the only researcher who had that particular qualification. So I brought two professional qualifications and the perspective from them to this research that no other researcher had done. So that was an important part of why my contribution is probably unique to understanding the Patterson film.
Right.
A second thing.
But Bill, let's jump to why did you continue the research? I mean, you did so much research on Patty.
Well, there's still so many unanswered questions. I mean, very early on, it was clear to me, based on all the research, that the film's 100% authentic. I mean, it's not even like 60, 40, 70, 20, 90, 10. It's 100% authentic, okay? There are no questions within the film of it being fake. But there are so many questions around the film in the larger sense that it required a continuing investigation. So there are a lot of issues that really need to be explored further. So it's been a lot to do. It's kept me pretty busy.
Well, what categories did you study after the initial study? What did you go on to study? I thought it was like adipose tissue and so on.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Jeff and I together did a paper on the adipose tissue, the fat or flab, whatever you'd like to call it, and why it's very realistic on her body. And in order to understand the realism, you actually have to study the human body itself. And you have to study a human body naked, because she is naked with just fur on her. And a lot of what we see on human bodies, especially when they're middle age or older, and especially if they're not in super trim, good health condition, not centerfold quality, quote unquote, but real honest bodies with lumps and folds and wrinkles and everything like that. If you actually study that, you find that there are elements of her body in the Patterson film which match exactly what we see on real human beings. And there are things that could not occur in a costume unless you deliberately design the costume with those things in it, and no costume designer in his right mind would ever do that. It makes no sense. So there are a lot of elements in terms of the adipose tissue, the fat, the flab, the folds, the wrinkles, everything about the body.
Yeah, do you see even the adipose tissue on this gorilla, Bill?
Oh yeah, sure.
And
as well as the crease down the spine. You see, the only way that crease right down the spine, the only way that would occur on a costume is if you deliberately tailor the costume to have that crease. And you would never do that, because when people look at something and they think it's a costume, the first thing they do is look for a line down the back and say, oh yeah, I saw the zipper down the back. So I can look at this gorilla that you're showing me and I can see it's a suit because I see the zipper down the back. But of course we know it's not a suit. Real bodies have that line down there. The funny thing though is that it stops well short of the head, because you have trapezius muscles in there bridging across the spine. and the skin then drumming across those trapezius muscles. So this indentation in the spine is more toward middle and lower, but it's not in the upper area. And we see that also on Patty. It's another example. But yeah, the fullness in the mid-belly area is definitely an indicator of it. Right below the pictures that you're showing, if you look at her armpit and then you go a little below it and go inward to the torso, there's a big fold right in there on each side. And that's adipose tissue, that's fat, that's flab. Now, a lot of people are confused by the reality that in human culture, if we assume someone is very well muscled, very physically toned, that they eliminate their body fat. So it's either muscle or it's fat, one or the other. But in nature, there is no one or the other, it's both. Patty has well-developed musculature for her natural strength, but she also has a heavy load of this adipose tissue, this body fat, because it's October and she's bulking up for the winter. Animals, real wildlife does that.
And how anatomically correct is Patty to what you worked on in photographing adipose tissue? How did it match?
It matched so well, it was scary, actually. The fold that I'm talking about, just below the armpit, going into the torso, I've got that on people. At the bottom of the spine, there's a vertical line of the spine, and then there's a horizontal fold that forms a shape, kind of like a T, but it's upside down. And I've got pictures of humans with that exact same configuration. One guy who's overweight standing at the beach looking out at the water. I photographed him from behind one day when I was at the beach. And it's a perfect match for Patty. But when you have a vertical fold and then you have a horizontal fold and they intersect literally as a perpendicular, there's no way that fold could occur naturally in a costume. It's a physical impossibility.
What anatomy expertise would have Roger or whoever made the suit would have? I mean, it would have been Roger and Bob, because if it would have been a third party involved, they would have come forward by now after all these years. What kind of expertise would he have needed to do this?
Well, you would need a tremendous knowledge of human physiology, but not just the anatomy as typically studied. Typically, when you study physiology, you're studying skeletons, you're studying musculature, you're studying venous circulation. You might be studying superficial appendages, but you typically not studying fat or adipose tissue. I don't know why you're not, but you're typically not doing it. So even if Roger or Bob had a good sound knowledge of human physiology, the way it's classically taught, they still wouldn't have the knowledge of the reality of real people who were mature, maybe a little overweight, carrying a certain amount of this adipose tissue or fat, if you want to call it that. The only way you're going to study that is to look at naked people. And that would involve going to like a nudist camp or a nudist resort, or scouring the internet, which is what I actually did, looking for pictures of people who were indulging in a nudist lifestyle. And I collected hundreds upon hundreds of pictures, but I wasn't looking for anyone that was centerfold quality. I wasn't looking for anyone that had a beautiful body. I was looking for people that had what I call an honest body, a body that had flaws, a body that was slightly overweight, a body that was not in the greatest physical condition. You have to study all of that. Now, it's pretty unlikely that anyone would have been studying that back in the 1960s. Even if you happen to watch, they actually produced films about people in nudist colonies. And even if you were to watch one of those, the only people they're going to feature are the ones that are very young, trim, athletic, and have very shapely, appealing bodies. They would not show you the people who have the honest bodies with a lot of overweight, folds, flab, wrinkles, and everything like that. They would not show that back in those days.
Right.
So
And I
how
believe
would
you
research
also, just to keep things moving here, we have so much ground to cover. I believe you also, Bill, studied the breasts. So let's talk about the breasts on Patty and the breasts that you had to study in order to confirm the reality of the Patterson-Gimlin footage.
Okay, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Exactly.
First thing was in the look back sequence, what I had to do was to stabilize her body, literally finding a fixed point on her body that was guaranteed not to move.
Okay.
And every picture of her, I had to stabilize that fixed point at exactly the same location on the screen.
Okay.
Doing that, any motion of the body, anything that shifts position will then be revealed. But if the camera is moving around a little bit and she's not stabilized, the movement might be so subtle with all the other movement, you wouldn't see it. So the first thing that I had to do was to stabilize the body. And I used a fixed point. There was one kind of a light spot right about in the upper area of her breastbone, about maybe 6 inches below her chin. And there was a fixed spot that was on every of the frames in the look back. And I stabilized her body with that fixed point. Once I had that fixed, any movement that there might occur in the breast mass would be then visible. And I was able to do that, and I was able to isolate and identify that, yes, indeed, the breast mass on her torso has a fluidity about it. It is not rigid. It's not static in its form. When she's doing the look back, she's looking at the camera. She's taking a forward step with her right foot.
Yeah.
But the ground is a little bit lower than what she is anticipating. Now, when you're not watching where you're going, your brain walking is kind of on what I call autopilot. Your brain anticipates where the ground is, and it knows when it should start shifting your weight onto that foot. But when Patty took that step, the ground was a little lower than she anticipated. So she started shifting her weight, but the ground wasn't supporting her yet. And her foot crashed down about 2 inches to the ground. When it hit the ground hard, it sent a shock wave up her body. And that shock wave caused her torso to shift quicker than the breast mass could follow. So you had the breast and the torso shifting relative to each other. So I was able to isolate that first. Okay. Now, the second step then was to consider, okay, in 1967, could you produce a prosthetic costume with a prosthetic chest that has that fluidity? So I tested all of the three materials that a person would have used in 1967 to create a prosthetic chest on a costume. One is slip latex. It's just rubber latex slushed into a negative mold.
Right.
And it produces a shape with a hard, thin layer of this latex. It's hollow, but it's thick enough that it will hold its own form precisely. That was one option. The second option was a real thin skin of latex and then a flexible polyurethane foam poured into the chest mold, and then the back of the chest put in to press two together to create a prosthetic piece. The third was natural foam latex, which is softer than the urethane foam and is widely used for facial prosthetics and some body prosthetics. Those are the three we had back in the late 1960s. So I made a chest prosthetic of each one of those materials. Then I hooked it to a torso figure on a stand that could deliberately drop the entire torso figure 2 inches and crash down on a little flooring below. So I could literally test how well these prosthetics demonstrate any kind of fluidity whatsoever when there is a shock wave subjected to it. And the result was 0. Not a single one of them demonstrated any fluidity of any kind.
Right.
They stayed completely rigid.
Would
Okay.
would have a modern breast implant done that? Even that good of fluidity? Even a modern saline bag or
Nobody had ever successfully put one in a prosthetic.
right. But
See, if you put it inside the slip rubber is hard enough that it won't allow fluidity.
I gotcha.
You can't put it into the foam ones because they're already solid foam.
Right.
And I don't even know if, they did have implants at that time. I worked on a body makeup on an actress once who had them. 68,
Chris,
I believe.
you got a comment?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Sure.
So back in 1967, you would imagine that to hide seams in the costumes back then in any of the movies, they would be using the hair. They would be using hair to hide seams, right? And you did a 5K scan of Patty. How hard would it have been for them, the technology back in 1967, to hide seams with the hair? I'm sure they were just using glue and maybe puncture hairs in. I mean, was that even a thought that what you looked into?
Okay.
Back then?
Ever since the 1930s, when people were making gorilla suits and ape suits, they've struggled with hiding zippers or other closures. Okay. With the typical zipper down the back, you can hide it, but you don't have two vertical lines of fur that you butt together like two books side by side on a bookshelf. You don't do it that way if you're trying to hide the zipper. What you do is you try to structure overlapping pieces that are sort of wedge shaped. This is what I did on some ape costumes in '88 for a television commercial. The zipper down the back was hidden by triangular patches of fur that were like zigzagged together. So one diagonal went to the left, one diagonal went to the right, to the left, right. And we closed them bottom up, and then combed down the fur. So the fur was overlapping another piece, and that hid the zipper line completely. So it can be done, but it depends on where the closures are. But normally, this is a classic rule when you're dealing with fur costumes. The longer the hair, the easier it is to hide your closures. Simple. The shorter the hair, the harder it is. Now, what we see on Patty's back is hair that's maybe 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. That's nothing. That's small. 2-3 inches is better. 6 inches is wonderful. 8 inches is Chewbacca, But when you've got fur that's only, say, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, hiding any seam or any closure is almost impossible, even by the triangular left-right thing that I mentioned. When fur is that short, if they don't align within less than 1/8 of an inch, one piece to another, there's going to be a line where one fur doesn't quite overlap the other. And there will be an actual
especially
line.
with movement, Bill. With movement,
but
that
even
line
without movement, it's almost impossible. But then you add movement, yes, it's going to ruffle one up. It's going to lift up slightly. It's going to expose more.
It's going to be stiffer there at that seam.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now, I want to just jump in and just change the subject for one sec. We're going to go right back to this. But William I know he's a doctor, and he had mentioned this hernia on the thigh was a possible rupture due to pregnancy. Every time I showed that footage to a surgeon, they all came up with that same scenario, that if somebody's pregnant, that they operated on these kind of hernias all the time, really common with pregnancy, and the hernia that goes down to the thigh, it moves downwards, as they get into postpartum. And then the surgeons operate and fix that bulge in the thigh. And so it was just interesting that William came to that conclusion on his own, because that was the same conclusion I heard over and over and over. And was that anything that you could study, Bill? Probably not.
I couldn't, only because I don't have the medical background to actually have ever seen a real hernia on a real body.
I do want to say this. It's one thing Bill has never done to me. He's never claimed to be something he's not. He's always been so brilliant in the projects that I've worked with you on, but yet you just go, I don't do that, or it's not my deal. Anyhow, back to, I didn't want to change the subject, but I wanted to bring it up before I forgot.
That's actually an important subject, and I would like to touch on it.
Sure, please.
One of the classic problems that a lot of researchers have is they seem to have a high confidence in their potential, but they don't recognize their limits. And any good researcher has to know his limits as well as his potential. And in that respect, because I have a profound love of science and I want to do this research right, I have actually made a very, very conscious and deliberate evaluation of my capabilities. So if you ask me about the footprints and maybe a mid-tarsal break that Jeff studied a lot, my answer is, I don't know that. If you want to ask me about the other sightings, a lot of other questions about where Bigfoot live, what they do, their diet, anything else like that, my answer is, I don't know that. I try to respect my limitations as well as my knowledge. And if you really are trying to be a responsible researcher, you must do both. If you can't accept your own limitations and know when you can't step in and say something, then you're really kind of skewing the whole research effort toward a biased point of view. When you know your limitations, you're being much more grounded in the reality of what you can determine and what you can't. You have to approach it the same way with your evidence. Aside from your own capability, when you're looking at evidence, you have to look at what will this evidence reveal or allow you to conclude. But similarly, what will this evidence not allow you to conclude? Where are the limits of the evidence? You must recognize that if you're going to do a correct analysis. So appraising your own limits and appraising the limits of your evidence, both, is absolutely crucial to your getting to, as much as possible, a truthful conclusion.
Right. Yeah. Somebody had mentioned too of this Provo rock. I'm just going to jump into it only because I'll forget once again. That is a really interesting video, and I think that video is real because I see the same leg sideways tilt that is almost impossible for a human to get into in that video, where the leg does this knock-kneed and then the severe angle on that video, and he noticed the same strange bend upwards midway to the point also on that footage. So real is hard to fake. So would Roger, Bill, put details in this thing, knowing what forensic tools we had at our disposal way into the future? I kind of doubt it. Why would they?
Yeah, that's something that I mentioned in my book. When a person is trying to hoax something and they assume that their hoax is going to be analyzed to possibly be debunked, they will look upon the technology that is existent, currently known, that would be used to debunk it or disprove it. But you cannot look to the future and anticipate technology that doesn't exist and how it can be used to analyze what you're doing. No hoaxer is that brilliant. Now, I don't know about any of you here as far as how much you know about computer technology in 1967. I worked in the student services department at Valley College when I was a student there. And one of my responsibilities was to go to the computer department and have them print out a monthly record of how much time students spent in the learning lab so that they could get credit for their extra study. So I had to go to the computer lab in 1967 at a college, and the computer they were running, I believe it was a 1620 IBM, and it was running on Fortran software or operating system. And you input data with a 60-bit punch card, and you output data to a line printer.
Yeah.
There was no monitor. There was no GUI. There was no screen. There was no click on this. Computer graphics did not exist. The only computer graphic possible was to print out a sheet of paper with a bunch of little X's and zeros forming like a tree or a cartoon face, or Kilroy was here or something like that. That was computer graphics, a printout of X's and zeros on a piece of paper. To imagine back in 67 that you could couple a computer to a TV monitor and actually work through a graphic user interface, a GUI, and click on this, click on that, to imagine even Photoshop, that would have taken a degree of imagination beyond any great science fiction writer of the time. So when you realize how we analyze the Patterson film today, and then you look back at 67 and you see what was the technology, even of computers, no one could have foreseen the analysis technology that we're doing. I mean, you even go back maybe 20, 30 years and say, okay, we got these two photographs and we're trying to align them. There's something very good. There's a movie called Black Widow with Deborah Winger. She's an FBI agent who is investigating suspicious deaths of rich men. And she begins to suspect Teresa Russell. So she pulls up a bunch of photographs from newspapers and magazines and such like that. And she gets them and actually photographs them. And she has two slide projectors. And she's projecting them both on the wall of her apartment of two pictures, and she's trying to compare them. Then she tries to turn the slide projector so one picture kind of overlays another to see if it looks like it's the same face. Now, that's only about 30, 35 years ago. That's still 20 years or so more after the Patterson film. And this is an FBI agent trying to match two photos with two projections on the wall. You know, there was nothing when we compare it to computer graphics where you load two images in Photoshop, you put one on a layer on top of the other, set it 50% transparency, scale it to the right size, and then move it around until you line up a certain object.
Right.
No one could have ever foreseen that. So getting back to what you were saying, a hoaxer can't anticipate future technology that might be used to expose the hoax.
Well, normally, Bill, a hoaxer is looking for a short-term gain of, a few months to a few weeks to maybe even a couple of years, but they're not looking far into the future, thinking that we're going to apply high technology to it. And why would they even care at that? You know what I mean? They're just not going to do that. I mean, no hoaxers. There's been a few hoaxers that have pulled off hoaxes, and they're always looking short-term. They don't look long-term.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
No, that's correct. I mean, if you look even at people trying to figure out how magicians do their tricks, a magician, a good sleight of hand or close-up magician can do some amazing close-up magic with, sleight of hand. And an average person looking can't figure it out. But if you can film his hands moving at maybe 10 times real speed, 240 frames if you're doing cinema, or 300 frames per second if you're doing video. If you can do it super fast and then slow it down to watch it, you can see what they're doing if you have that technology. But if you go back a few years, a magician never worried about somebody with high-speed filming or high-speed video filming what they're doing. They would just rely on the fact that people are looking at it, and you can fool them. So yeah, people would look at the reality of what they're dealing with when they want to fool somebody.
Okay,
They're not looking into the future.
I do want to bring up this hernia thing because it's quite controversial. The actual lump happens when it would be, if it was a wrinkle, the wrinkle would be going away, because when you lift your leg and bend it, you're stretching. It's like your jeans. They get loose when you straighten your leg, and they get tight when you close your calf against your thigh. And so the bump happens the opposite of when it would happen if it was just something under the suit or a wrinkle. And that's what's so interesting. And the fact that literally every surgeon I showed it to goes, that is a pregnancy hernia. And they just like instantly identified it, going, wow, just, and so it's the actual opposite, that bulge. So you go ahead and all you got to do is you don't even need to make a whole suit. Just make the leg, just make a little short piece. Now try to put a marble underneath or a golf ball, and you're going to find that, or you're going to find it gets tight. The opposite. Everything's the opposite.
Yeah, so, you're correct, because the knee is bending during that sequence.
Yes.
And when the knee bends, the skin or fur on the thigh is stretched.
Yeah.
I've actually monitored that stretching across the thigh when the leg is bent. So yes, it really is being stretched.
Yeah.
That
So
will occur on real skin. That'll occur on the costume.
And here we have a surgeon agreeing with us that I've never even talked to about it. So
yeah.
And I think I probably showed it to 10 surgeons. Everyone instantly goes, I fix those all day long. They just recognized it instantly. Nobody said, oh, that looks like a wrinkle in the suit. They just recognized when it would pop, And during that same exact, because it's the same exercise he makes a woman do when they come into his office, and they see the same bulge. So anyhow, all right. Michael, yes, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, as long as we're talking about Hollywood and costumes,
yes,
I'm often reminded of Gilligan's Island and the gorilla in Gilligan's Island. And I think Jeff found a picture. There you go. That's 1965. That's episode 22, I believe, originally airing in 1965. That's obviously 2 years before the Patterson-Gimlin footage was shot. But this is kind of state-of-the-art, big-time Hollywood production. This is before Planet of the Apes and some of the other stuff. Chewbacca didn't have any body kind of morphology, but just
he was just fur. Yeah. I'd take a gamble that the one you're showing is probably Janos Prohaska. He was kind of in the mid to 60s to early 70s, the more active go-to guy for a man in a gorilla suit. So I'd suspect it probably was him performing in that costume.
You are correct. I just looked it up. That is correct, Janos.
And by the way, Jeff, put up picture 57D, because that's where we're going to go next.
Sure.
57D.
How much would it cost in 1967 to build a suit that would look like Patty now?
In 67, your budget would probably be, I would guess $5,000, somewhere in that range. But that's $67. It would be very different today.
Got you. Okay, so I've put up a picture. That is a gorilla foot and its hairline. I've had that picture in my archives for over 20 years, I believe, and that's why it's so low res. But that is the hairline on a gorilla's foot. And do you want to talk about hairline, Bill, on the foot and the whiteness people claim is the sole of a shoe or whatever they claim, and the substrate that was at Bluff Creek that I was there, and I've seen the substrate there.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Talk about the leg and the foot and the hairline.
In a natural foot on something that does have fur, such as a gorilla, the sole of the foot doesn't have any hair, just like the palm of the hand doesn't. So the hairline has to sort of come down the side and pretty much kind of trickle out along the side edges before tucking under to the sole of the foot. That's typical of anything that is covered in hair. We see something similar to that on Patty, but her foot appears white actually for two reasons. One is that chances are her foot was picking up a little bit of the sandy substrate, and it might have been sticking to the skin. But also we have the fact that almost every picture we reference is a copy of a copy, because we don't have the camera original to look at. And when film is copied, most people who are into digital imagery don't realize, when film is copied, it builds up contrast. The lights get lighter, shifting toward white. The darks get darker, shifting toward black. And when we see a picture of Patty where we want to see detail on her body's dark, so you have to kind of overexpose the copying to lighten her body a little bit. So the tones get more into a mid-range than shift to black. Well, when you lighten it a little bit more, then the light qualities in the picture go even closer to pure white. And that's what was happening with images of the bottom of the sole of her foot. This contrast buildup of the film is causing the light tone that was already there because of a little bit of ground substrate sticking to her feet. That light tone shifted lighter and lighter and lighter with each copy. So almost every copy we look at is second generation or more. We have this contrast buildup that's making it look even whiter. That confuses a lot of people into thinking that the soles of her foot are white when they're not. So we have that technology that has to be factored into it. And a lot of people who know digital imagery don't understand this because it doesn't happen with digital imagery. If you copy a digital image, it's identical to the original. No change in color, no contrast buildup, no loss of detail, nothing. It's identical. In old-fashioned photographic film, that's not the case. You copy, you lose quality, you increase contrast, you may shift the color saturation. Those are the realities of copying film. So you have to think of that in the context of film and basically forget digital imagery when you're trying to analyze the film. So the whiteness on her foot is mostly the contrast buildup, shifting to white, overexposing the picture slightly to get a better middle tone quality of her body, which is dark. That pushes the light tones even lighter, so the foot becomes almost white.
No,
so that's the reality.
So, okay, recently me and Bill, we just wanted to get to the truth. Remember the IMAX project, Bill, that we worked on?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And all we were doing is trying to get to the truth. And that to get to the truth cost a lot of money. Took both Bill and I a lot of time. Go ahead and put up 50D. I'm just the same kind of thing here in a lot of ways. But go ahead and put photo 50D up.
Sure. Give me 1 second here.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, no worries.
And this is just a great comparison. And this lets you know that we're not just after trying to make every footage look like Bigfoot. Okay, so this is just some close-up frame captures of what we could see in the IMAX footage because they had set the contrast to make the caribou look proper. And the caribou are kind of light colored. So everything else got darker. And by the movements and the look, it looked to me exactly like 50 AD. Look at show the picture of 50 AD, and then put this one back once you show 50 AD.
Sure, we find that.
It's right below it, Jeff.
There it is. Yep, hold on.
Yeah, and you're gonna go, wow, yeah, okay. This is what I thought we were dealing with.
Mhm.
A Bigfoot on all four with a gorilla on the back, or a baby on the back, and it was hunting. So I figured, well, I've heard these things use all four locomotion, and it was trying to keep low because it was hunting caribou. And the camera guy was contacted. He claimed nobody was over on the other side of that peninsula, on the other side of the river, on. And the movement, you can go watch it, the Great North video, it's called. And the movement is so smooth, it's incredible. Okay, so me and Bill get the negative, and we do the simple thing, which is lighten it up, for the creature, not the thing.
And zoom in.
And $8,000 later, and on my end was about, I have to say, about 10 years of work to get the negative and to get to know the right people and befriend them. And so go ahead and show 50. It's right below 50 ED. God dang it, I didn't label that one. Just scroll to 50 ED, and it's the photo right below it. This will blow your mind, guys.
I got it. Yep, hold on.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the first this has ever been shown. Nope, that's not it. It's below that foot piece.
Oh, that was 50 ED.
Below 50. There you go. That is the same picture once it was lightened. Now, what do you see? You see a baseball cap. You see a guy holding a walkie-talkie with a backpack. That's what the truth that we got to. That truth, not only did it cost me $8,000 to do all this, but it cost me a huge budget for a TV show. And I'm still, that's the truth. So I don't want to be accused by anybody of, it's just no, nothing to do with anything but the damn truth. And that I will get PO'd at anybody who accuses me of not wanting to get to the truth. And Bill also.
Yeah. I remember I had such high hopes for that. And man, I was really just on pins and needles anticipating when we would see the close-up. And I thought, boy, this is going to be it. This is going to be better than Patterson-Gimlin. And then we get a crew guy with a cap on and his
see what looks like. Put the other one up, the one above that, the guy with the walkie-talkie, and then you'll see where his hand is. We thought that was the foot of the baby.
Yeah.
And in the movement, it looks like the foot bounces like it would, because it wouldn't probably be clinging on very well. You see that light spot? That's the guy's hand, but it had all of everything, the profile, the sagittal crest even looked like a sagittal crest, everything. So not only were our hopes up, but we still want the truth. It doesn't matter. Truth knocks out everything.
Yeah.
So that's it. And we just don't go, they did that we don't try to reframe it. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And so
that's something which, with the Patterson film, people saying, I've heard it often said that I'm biased, that I want it to be real.
Exactly.
And they don't realize that whatever people are saying, oh yeah, Munns is doing it because he wants to be famous, he wants to be known, he wants attention, this, that, and the other. I could get, if I wanted attention, I could get every bit as much, maybe even more, if I proved the Patterson film was a fake. So if that were my goal, which it's not, but if it were, I'd go for the fake and be the person who finally once and for all proved it was a hoax.
Right.
Because it's been hanging around for years, but nobody's ever proved it. So to be the guy who proved it was a hoax would be a real nice star on my resume if the truth led to that conclusion. Like when I was given what's called the Matilda footage, I had no problem telling the poor guy who bought the footage and wanted desperately to believe it was real. I had no problem telling him, I'm sorry, but this is nothing more than a commercial Chewbacca mask that's been refitted with different fur to match a fur costume.
Yeah, and so wanting it to be real has nothing to do with our end conclusions.
No, it doesn't.
If you have integrity, it doesn't matter.
No, if I can find evidence something's a fake, I have no qualms about showing it, explaining it, and going to that conclusion. You have to go to the truth, good or bad. And boy, I'll tell you, on this IMAX thing, that was crushing. I mean, we really
Of course it was crushing.
I was honestly, I'd say almost 100% confident when we got the close-up, we'd be seeing something real.
Yeah, me
I
too.
really had that level of hope and confidence. And then, of course, we got the reality and we had to accept it.
Yeah.
Because the picture was so obviously clear. It's a human with a baseball cap, with his walkie-talkie, a vest on, something like that. You know, it was so obvious.
But I've had people argue with me that film is still real. Even as soon as last week, this is very common. I get this maybe once a month. Somebody comes to me and says, well, what do you think about the IMAX footage? And I go, well, yeah, kind of, it's a problem. I didn't want to say it publicly only because I'm kind of saving it. But David Pilates just took my picture, and his producer grabbed my picture and then put it in their documentary, and it makes it kind of look like they found it and they did all that work. No, I took 10 years of my life to do that. And it was 70.
I know. I worked with you on it because I had to pull up the frame and then scale it based on IMAX frame size and 16 millimeter size. And I pulled a comparison to show you how big that figure would look compared to Patty at the same level of film grain. And I remember we put all that together to give you a target. So when you went to IMAX and they set it up so they could do the scan, so you had the reference of where to exactly zoom in. You know,
more technical. And this was 70. This is 70 millimeter film, but it was farther away than Patterson shot Patty with a 16. So in a lot of ways, the resolution is probably better with Patty's.
Actually, IMAX would have been better.
Oh, it would have been. Okay.
It would have been slightly. Yeah.
Slightly. Okay. But it's clearly a guy. You can see the insignia on his cap. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Doug, I remember getting the call on this, and I ran over to your house, and you showed it to me in your projection room and on Blu-ray. And I said, yeah, that sure looks like a bipedal hominoid, but I didn't know it was a guy with a baseball cap.
It's just crazy. It's just everything matched this. It matched like a low crouching Bigfoot on all fours hunting with its infant on its back. It just matches that so close. And that leg would bounce when it walked, and it's like, wow, look at the leg on the infant. And it's just a guy's hand.
Yeah, and it turns out to be a rare hominid called Assistant Director Pithecus.
Exactly. So anyhow, I do this in so you guys understand our hearts are in the right place here. And if Patterson footage is fake, gol dang it, we want to see how that was done. You know what I mean?
Oh God,
There's because it'll be the most amazing thing ever.
Well, should we talk about some of the famous people that have claimed to debunk it? I mean, there's questions in chat about that. I mean,
sure. Yeah, go for it.
Who is?
Well, I mean, the two. Well, talking about this new supposed documentary that hardly anyone has seen, but everyone seems to be referencing. Yeah. And then the Bob Hieronymus statement Hieronymus. I think we should address that just to.
Yeah, of course. We're planning. It's on my list. Yeah. We can go there right now. I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, they just can't come out with this film and not having backing or nothing. I mean, look at all the stuff that Mr. Munns has done over the years. He put all this work into to analyzing the film, they're not just going to come out with this, whatever they're coming out. They're going to have to come out with a whole lot of evidence to back whatever they're coming out with instead of just a 10-second
Well, it's just
clip.
not, there's actually no evidence. The only evidence is their framing of saying it's a rehearsal. It's that reframing of that word that caused, if they wouldn't have called it that, so it was brilliant on their part to say, oh, it's rehearsal footage. Where the hell did they come to that conclusion? And
Bill was in it.
Yeah. What, Mike?
I said, well, Bill was in it, so we should hear from Bill, kind of how.
Yeah, you're right. Anyhow, go ahead, Bill. Talk about this, the way they framed it.
For those of you who may be listening and don't know exactly what we're talking about, the documentary called Capturing Bigfoot has 40 seconds of footage of someone dressed up in a fur costume who is trying to duplicate the scene of the Patterson film where we see Patty walking away from camera. And whoever is performing in the costume, and it is very obviously a costume, whoever is performing in the costume is literally replicating the way Patty walked to such a high degree of precision that there are only two explanations for this footage. It could not have occurred by random coincidence. There was no chance he just put a guy in a suit, say, walk, turn on the camera, and he does exactly what Patty did. It matches too closely in terms of the way the walk is done, and in one point, the posture of one leg, the right leg, when it is lifted up and the sole of the foot is vertical, so the entire sole of the foot is seen exactly as in one of the still frames commonly shown of Patty. Okay, it's almost a perfect match, and I think they even isolated that frame and compared it to Patty in the documentary, if I seem to recall that. Okay, so they have something that can't be written off as coincidence. I've got footage of an ape suit test that Eric Beckjord, another researcher, did in 1980. And he just got a gorilla suit and he had a guy walking along and he was filming. And it's a joke. It's not even close. There's nothing similar. But this Capturing Bigfoot footage is so close that there must be some connection to the Patterson film. Now, there are only two explanations. They suggest a rehearsal, that it was shot before the Patterson as a first test run, which by their logic shows the PGF as a hoax and was the second try. Okay, that's their argument. The other argument, which I support, is that it's a replica. It was filmed after the Patterson-Gimlin film. And when they were filming this replica, they actually had still pictures with them that they could refer to and show to the person who's going to be in the costume walking and say, okay, do this. Lift your right foot so your foot is up and down, truly vertical, which is not a natural walking posture. You have to force yourself to do that consciously. So in my interpretation of the footage, I think it's a replica. They were looking at stills of the Patterson film when they were out in the woods, and they were just deliberately trying to do as much as possible exactly the way they saw it in these stills. Okay, so you have this debate. Is it a rehearsal or is it a replica? A rehearsal before the fact of the Patterson film or a replica after the fact? Those are the two alternatives, and that seems to be the debate. Now, the film Capturing Bigfoot is trying to argue rehearsal, and they're trying to say it was shot before the Patterson-Gimlin film. And they insist that somebody made that determination. Now, I have heard from some people that they're even suggesting I made such a determination. I absolutely did not. I could not make any determination of that without evidence, and I didn't get any evidence. I watched the film, and then I physically inspected the 16 millimeter film in my hands with an eye loupe, but I was not given any evidence to take home with me. I have none in my possession that I can study. So this idea of determining that this footage was shot before the PGF, which was October 67, and they're saying this footage is late 66, early 67. Who made that determination? They never disclosed.
You never saw any, by the way, you never saw any muscles in that little clip. You didn't even see the clip, did you?
Yes.
They played it digitally, didn't they? And then let you inspect
they scanned it to a video.
Yeah.
And I saw that.
And you didn't see any muscles?
No. As soon as I saw it, it was obvious it was a suit. So I was focusing my attention on the similarity of the walk. That's what I said, okay, this is too close to PGF. This can't be coincidence. So that was where my attention was when I was watching it. But in terms of the look of the figure, I recognized immediately it was a costume. I think one of the giveaways was when I think something's a costume and I'm not sure, the first thing I look at is the shape of the head. And if right above the brow ridge, above the eye, if the head goes upward in a big curving arch, like a domed forehead, like all humans have, then I almost automatically write it off as, probably a mask, probably a suit.
Is that what you saw?
I seem to recall seeing that on that film, which is why the moment I saw that, it has a head like a human, not like Patty.
So you had a high forehead.
Then I could focus on the walk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing we just should address is, Jeff says, well, it was a rear. They're claiming Jeff said it looked like a rehearsal.
Oh, I don't know anything about what Jeff himself
No, I know
said.
that. We don't know what Jeff said. But the point is Jeff didn't get any chance to study anything or even think about it. It was just kind of an ambush thing. Just like Bill was kind of ambushed, dropped it in his lap, blah, 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 gives him, seconds to make a soundbite on it.
Well, honestly, I wasn't ambushed. I was brought in for a 4-hour interview before I saw the footage.
Right, that's what I mean. But you didn't get to see the footage for film. Okay, Bill.
Yes.
We have a
when
delay.
It came to the footage, they didn't tell me anything.
No,
they just said watch this.
Right. Here's what I'm saying. You didn't get to study the footage for 4 hours and then do the interview.
No.
That's still an ambush interview.
It's sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did forewarn them. I said, no matter what you're showing me, do not expect a shocked, surprised reaction like, oh my God, what the hell is this? I said, don't expect that. Because when I'm analyzing something new and I don't understand it and I'm trying to figure it out, nothing happens on my face. It's just a blank slate, a poker face, while my brain is working. So I told them up front, I said, if you're thinking you're going to get some, oh my God, reaction from me, I'll tell you right now, you're not. And they didn't. So if they were ambushing me, they were firing blanks, you might say. And I didn't give them any reaction that they could use. But apparently Jeff wasn't kind of psyched up to this. And he might have just impulsively given them a reaction that they could use.
Well, I talked to Jeff afterwards, and Jeff was like, oh, God, this is ridiculous. That literally what Jeff said to me. This is all ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And it was awkward. He used words like awkward. I didn't even pay much attention to it because he was so dismissive of the whole thing. He was so dismissive with me. I just kind of blew it off. I had other important things to talk about. And we changed the topic pretty quick. So it certainly wasn't life-changing for Jeff on any sense of the word.
Right.
So there you go, Central Kentucky. There
you have it. Yeah.
There you have it. I mean, he called me to tell me how awkward. That was it.
Well, one thing that bothers me is all this stuff is like, well, so-and-so allegedly said this, or I heard this. Hardly anyone has seen this actual documentary. So it's all hearsay. So it's hard to even take any of it serious.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the majority of people who are chewing up YouTube with their videos talking about it haven't seen it, which is a joke.
Yeah,
and they're talking about someone else said this when they saw it. because a few people did see it. It was screened at
Yes.
Film Festival in San Antonio. So a few people have seen it, yes.
So the
And,
clip is how long? 20 seconds, 40 seconds, something like that?
I believe 40 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
40 seconds. So you get 40 seconds to make your mind up. Okay, well, that's great. And if it walk with compliant gait, which is real easy to do, which is bent knee walk, that's easy to do. Anybody can do that without even any practice. But my question is the footprints were never addressed, right? That never got addressed. The footprints that Patty made, which obviously Jeff addressed for how many years? Did he study those footprints?
His whole career.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
We're talking, his whole career. He studied that. But there was something else I wanted to bring up.
Doug, while you're thinking, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So, Bill, you examined the actual film, right? How many inches or feet of that?
Oh, yes.
Did you look at?
The actual PGF is 23.4 feet long, 954 frames.
Okay. And then how many feet did you look at on this lost footage?
The one with Roger holding the cash standing by the tree?
No. The one that they showed you after the interview.
I didn't have a set of rewinds. I didn't have a viewer I could run it through. So I just spooled a little bit out and had an eye loop, and I was looking at it to read the edge coding and look at the camera ID marks and such. But on the actual reel of 16 millimeter film in my hand, I did not get to go through the whole thing because I would have had to spool it out onto the floor and get it dirty and didn't want to do that.
Right. So how many feet do you think was how big was the can?
It was 100-foot load. I don't recall it being like less than the full reel because the 40 seconds is only like a fifth of the of a 100-foot load. If you only had a fifth in there and it was on a daylight reel, you'd have to reach way down inside to even get the film to pull it out. And it seems, as much as I recall, that it was pretty much right at the edge of the reel, which means it was a full 100-foot load. But what was on that after that 40 seconds, I have no idea. It could have been nothing. They could have just shot it and pulled it out of the camera and said, let's forget about the rest of the reel. And they just developed it. And it could be just clear leader, which is unexposed film. That's how it develops. I don't know on the reel itself what was after that.
But shouldn't that be requested by somebody like you? I want to see the rest of the film roll.
There could be nothing there.
No, I know, but then wouldn't it be good to see the nothing?
Oh yeah, it'd be wonderful to see that. It would be wonderful to see still.
Or what else is on there? Because the truth may lie in the rest of that clip, is what I'm getting at.
I mean, there could be three more minutes of stuff.
There could be 3 minutes of them going. Well, let's see. We got to redo it because it doesn't quite match.
Sitting down at a picnic table eating ribs, and one guy.
We don't know. The point is, Bill should have a chance at looking at the actual entire reel.
Well, that would be ideal if we were searching for the truth. Yeah,
the truth. Yeah.
But Bill,
but I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, Bill, I don't know if you can talk about this, but have you had any contact with the makers of the documentary since they released it?
I had a few emails with the producer, Tamir. Yeah, we're still on cordial terms.
And did you kind of ask him if you could see more of the footage, or ask him?
He's keeping it under wraps until he can arrange either a distribution deal or another screening. I even asked him if he could put me in contact with Patterson's son, Clint Patterson. And he said, well, maybe in the future we can do that, but not right away. No. So they're not providing anything that I can use for my analysis. No.
Okay. And then maybe you could go back and cover kind of what you saw on the leader that you looked at.
I don't remember anything in the leader itself.
Well,
I would have made a mental note.
Yeah, the markings on the film that led you to.
Okay. On every film, Kodak, when they make it, they expose some writing on one side in between the sprocket holes. It's called a latent image. They expose it, but then they package the film and send it off. The film is not developed until the person who buys the film shoots it and then takes it to a lab to develop. This latent image that Kodak puts on the side, thus, is not seen until the film is developed. Okay. Now, the latent image on this film has, number one, it has the film type, Kodachrome, not Ektachrome. Second, it indicates a date code of what year the film was manufactured. This particular film has a date code of 1966. It has information on which plant Kodak made it in, and this film was manufactured at the Rochester, New York plant. Okay. Then it has a little more information on it, but those are the crucial things which you're looking at. Most of the time, we're just looking at the film type, Kodachrome, and the date, 1966. But I also look at camera ID marks. And a lot of American-made 16 millimeter cameras have little irregular shapes in the aperture plate that expose these little unusual shapes on the sides of the picture. And every camera has a different ID shape. The Kodak K100 camera has a very distinctive shape. It's a hemisphere, kind of a notch on the upper left corner of the frame. Okay, you can look at that and you can see it was shot with a Kodak K100 camera, no question. There's also the shape of the aperture frame. It's the sort of the frame around the actual picture on film. These apertures have slightly different shapes, maker to maker. And on the Kodak K100 camera, it has two models, a single lens version and a 3-lens turret version. And they have a slightly different aperture shape that I've studied because I have footage from both types of cameras. This footage looked more to be like the single lens model, same as Patterson used. So it suggests that whoever was making this footage knew what type of camera Roger would be using, and they wanted to duplicate the Kodachrome stock. They wanted to duplicate the use of the camera with the same type of camera. So they made a conspicuous effort to duplicate it. Now, this is where, in one sense, the rehearsal thing falls apart. I have also a lot of other footage that Roger shot of a lot of that he was hoping to use in his documentary. And so I have 500 complete rolls, 500 feet, and another half roll, another 50, 550 feet. And I've studied this. And what's interesting is that on all of the 100-foot loads, Roger isn't shooting Kodachrome, he's shooting Ektachrome. And although some of them are shot with a K100 camera, some are not. He used another camera. And this is in the time before he did the film in Bluff Creek in October of '67. So Roger was shooting with other cameras, not just a K100. So if you are trying to do a rehearsal and you're specifically trying to guess what camera Roger was using, well, the K100 he used for the PGF, he didn't rent that until May. But they're saying this rehearsal was done in '66, early '67. Well, you don't know what camera Roger might be using in the future for that. So to use that kind of camera, because it's the same one Roger will use in October '67, how do you know that's the one he's going to be using? Doesn't make sense. You can't predict that. Another problem with the rehearsal thing is that all of this documentary footage that I observed, that I studied, all of the Ektachrome rolls, 5 of them, were date coded 1966 as well. So Roger actually was getting a lot of film footage with a 1966 date code, and he was shooting it. Some of it has winter scenes with heavy snow. Some of it's like spring, summer, and such. So these are different times of the year. And that's kind of all over the place. There's footage of him in the redwood forests of Northern California with his van, his VW van, with a sign on the roof says Bigfoot Expedition 67 that he filmed also with this 66 footage. So he was taking 66 film stock and shooting it all through 1967, leading up to October. So when you try to look at this new footage and try to say, oh yeah, it's got a 1966 date code and the Patterson film has a 1967, you say, oh, it must be shot sooner. It doesn't work that way with film. What the date code is for the manufacturer has absolutely no bearing on when the film is shot. So film that was manufactured in 66 can be shot in 67, can be shot in 68, could even be shot in 69 if you want. And it's still good. Film is fine. It's going to be just as good as if you shot it the day they manufactured it. So how this determination was made that they claim it was shot before the PGF, I've never seen any evidence that would support that claim. I have never seen any description of what evidence was even used, how it was determined. You know, it wasn't done with any film production report or paperwork. It wasn't done with any lab work order. You know, a lab work order on it where it says date up at the top doesn't say 66 or maybe early 67. It has a calendar date on it. You know, it's December 23 or it's February 7 or whatever, but it's got a date on it. They don't have a date, so they don't have documentation that shows when it was done. So it leaves us to wonder, how was that determined? Now, maybe they had somebody look at the foliage in the picture and say, well, this kind of looks like spring or late winter going into spring. I don't know. I don't remember the foliage. I was too busy looking at the actor running around in the costume. Maybe they had somebody look at the foliage and say, well, yeah, this kind of looks like end of winter, early spring. And so they're, must be end of 66 going into 67. But when you look at a picture of foliage in the woods, the trees don't have a date on them. There's no calendar that says 1967 February or anything like that. You know, you can look at it and say, yeah, it's spring, just like you can look at PGF and say, yeah, it's autumn. Big red trees, red leaves, yeah, that's autumn. But you don't know which autumn. So if they're using the foliage in the picture to try to determine when it was filmed, maybe they can pin it down to a season of the year, but they can't pin it down to which year.
Right. Yeah.
There's no date in there.
How long would that film last? Potentially 10 years, 5 years? Where you could,
if it's well preserved, it can go 20, 30.
Yeah.
You know, it's in theory, it's best within 2 or 3 years.
And what would you get? And what would you get if you took that old film stock and advanced it into 2025 and then shot with it? Would you? I mean, is it possible you'd get a good image?
You'd get nothing because you can't develop it.
Yeah,
you can't. Kodachrome film stopped being developed in 2010.
But what about I know, but what about a guy with a soup? I know guys that say they could develop it. They can mix up their own soup and develop it.
Not Kodachrome.
You can't, huh?
No way. Ectochrome, fine. Yeah, Ectochrome's no problem.
But
Kodachrome, no.
Was that like a machine they had to use?
Yes. Between the machine and the chemicals, Kodak had that absolutely locked up.
It's a proprietary process, yeah.
Yeah. The only possibility that I have heard that's even credible is another film process called Dynachrome that was brought out in the late 60s, and people who had worked on Kodachrome, chemical engineers, started their own company and made Dynachrome. Okay. So I have heard Dynachrome processing, you could process a Kodachrome film stock with Dynachrome processing. That I've heard.
All right, Bill.
But
I got to moderate here to keep so we cover enough ground. See, this says, I believe it's up on the screen. I believe the point, from my understanding, is not so much the film, but the costume matching up. Obviously, Bill, you said it didn't match at all.
I wasn't impressed. No.
No, exactly.
But
what would you tell?
Nothing about costumes, Mike. Yeah.
What would you tell folks that are going to see this film, Bill? What would you tell them to watch out for on the costume? What would you tell them to look at?
Good question,
First
Chris.
thing, look at the shape of the head. If you see a high forehead coming off the brow ridge, it's a mask a human's wearing.
Yeah.
Compared to Patty, when you look at Patty in the PGF, as soon as you pass the brow ridge right above her eyes, her head slopes straight back.
Yeah.
Now can't see it. You can't see it in the look back, which is showing on screen on the right. You need a profile picture of her head to actually see that shape.
Yeah.
But it has a head shape like a gorilla. Go right above the brow ridge, the head goes almost straight backwards.
Yeah, Michael or Jeff, throw up that picture where I took the hair off of Patty. It's 53D.
Sure.
And that'll demonstrate a little bit from the front and the side of what we're talking about.
Hey, while he's doing it, go ahead.
And the other thing I was going to just backtrack and mention about the Politis film that used my IMAX picture. They just, what makes me mad, they gave me no credit. They kind of acted like they discovered it and did all that. That's what I was referring to. So
yeah.
It was me and Bill that they just kind of went, oh, yeah, we did, or whatever. I haven't even seen it, but I've heard. It's kind of like, they claim that it was their prowess that did it, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
They were just, they were the reapers of the reward of our hard work. Anyhow, but to clarify, a human head will not fit in Patty. The forehead would stick right out of the costume.
Exactly, yeah. And actors are finicky people. Yes, somebody to lop off the top of their head to fit the mask. They won't do it. They're picky. Yeah. And I don't think SAG would allow it either. Screen Actors Guild. They have a funny little
take issue
rule.
with that.
You cannot do a lobotomy on an actor for a part, something like that.
Yeah, and the best way for all you guys that don't believe it, go get all together and raise some money and build a suit. Go to Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's simple, no problem.
$100,000. I mean, do it right. Build it up. Let's see it.
Yeah,
well, there's enough people that would love that. It shouldn't be that hard to get money to do it either. I mean, there's so many people that are kind of haters.
I'm surprised nobody has. Oh, that's right. They have tried and it's failed every time.
Good luck.
Yeah, total failure.
And Bill, if I gave you $1 million right now, you could not duplicate Patty, correct?
What we see in the film, no. I couldn't.
No, so I mean, man in a costume.
Yeah.
And even with today's materials, probably not.
With today's materials, you could do most of it, but not 67 materials.
And
like you could do.
Well, what about like the tendons and all of the movement of all these, the calf muscles and tendons and.
Nobody's ever succeeded in doing that in a costume.
Yeah.
We can do padding to make it look like musculature. Yeah. We can do that fabulously. We can tailor the outer skin to follow those muscular contours perfectly. We can do that, but they won't move like muscles.
Now, people are saying, people are respectfully saying about Patty not having a butt crack. Bill, you want to address the butt crack?
Well, she sort of does, but again, when we're dealing with
Jeff, throw up that enhanced, throw up 52D. Then go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, people when they think of human buttocks, they're thinking of a Playboy playmate, and God knows they have incredibly great buttocks. Okay, but real honest bodies that are bulked up, overweight, have a lot of adipose tissue, often the crease between the cheeks of the buttocks come together so close that the separating line is like paper thin. And if you put fur on top of that, the fur could potentially obscure it almost completely. So you have to forget about the buttocks of a Playboy Playmate or anything like that, where, you know, everything is just splendidly well defined. On a real human body of a middle-aged human.
Okay, well, there's an unenhanced piece of Patterson footage right there. It's unenhanced. Yeah. I just took a picture of the monitor, and you can clearly see the butt crack there, and you can also see the muscles clenching the butt crack.
It's there, yeah. It's there. You also have that T shape in the spine. The line going down and then the horizontal line sideways, like a T upside down. And there's no way that can occur in a costume naturally.
I see callus tissue at the elbow.
Yeah.
I see the it's the gastrocnemius muscle or whatever it is, the calf muscle. Look at the powerful calf muscle on that.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful. But there's another thing that's never mentioned that's in this picture. Let me touch on that a moment.
Sure,
Look at the back of the neck right below the head, the very top of the torso. It's a dark mass. Okay? You see it?
Yep.
Okay. Now, with a fur costume that a human's wearing, you have to have a separation between the head mask and the body, the torso. You must be able to separate those two. Because if you can't, the person inside will overheat and pass out. So you have to be able to give the person wearing the costume relief. Now, if you just take the head off, that actually does half the job of cooling a person down. If you take the head off and let a person sit in front of a fan, then the whole rest of the body, still inside the suit, heating up, you can keep that person cool and conscious if you have that breeze on the face. So when we design a costume, we have to have a separation between the head and the torso. All right. Now, that separation, every time we put the person in the costume, the first thing that we do is stand behind them with a hairbrush and brush that hair down completely flat to hide that separation, that closure area. But what you see in there is literally the hackles of the hair, the back of the neck, the top of the torso, raised up, which you see in animals. You see it in chimpanzees, you see it in dogs. When the hackles are raised up, it's because they're frightened or scared, nervous, or whatever. Now, when hair is raised up on its end, the sunlight going down into the fur goes deeper into it and kind of disappears in it. So that area where the hair is raised is almost black. When the hair is laid down flat, it reflects a lot lighter and you see a lighter tone. So that picture of Patty, the hackles of her neck are raised up. In a costume, the only way you can accomplish that is to literally back brush the hair upward. Yeah. And well, I want to.
Well, this is a perfect time. I got to tell this story. When we were doing the transfer of the film onto high def in a studio on a giant monitor, I mean, it was probably a 80, 90 inch monitor. You could see, and this is something that has not been worked on by anybody. I'm working on it, but you can see the hair go into that. What do they call it when your hair stands on end? The muscles. Pileated muscles.
Piloerector.
Piloerection happens. And her hair stands up when she looks at Bob. There's piloerection that happens. I'd love to see that happen in a suit.
It wouldn't unless you back brush it, and you never back brush.
No. I mean, literally, you can watch it raise in the film. There's piloerection. If you get it up on a big enough monitor, and we had it up, and this guy at the studio, total bunch of skeptics, and this guy in the studio saw that piloerection happen right in front of him, and he goes, oh my God, that thing's real. It freaked him out.
Yeah, because you can't do it on a costume.
No, it literally went from flat, and then it looked at Bob, and it got goosebumps, and it went into that, it's very subtle. But boy, we reversed it. You got to reverse it, go forward and backwards, and you see the hair bristle, just like a dog. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Right, exactly.
So do that.
Yeah. That's something that I've studied a lot, even though I haven't usually talked about it most of the time in interviews, but I've studied it quite a bit. And what we're seeing there is absolutely real.
Yeah. The other thing, put that picture back that you had. Let's see, 51D. I want to show something. This is something no one's talked about ever, and I'm going to bring this up, and you all can study it. Okay, you talk about, it's a diaper. I want you to look where the anus would be. You actually see the anus opening a little bit where it's a circle. Do you see that? Do you see the slight dark shaded circle?
I do not.
Oh my God. I wish I could point. Jeff, get your pointer out, your mouse.
Can you see that?
Get your anus pointer out.
Yeah, your anus
pointer. Can't really see it, no.
Yeah, I don't have mine on me at the moment.
Jeff?
You can't see my mouse there.
Oh, well, where is it? I don't see it at all.
Yeah, I know. That's my point. You can't see it.
Well, it's literally, look at the butt. It's halfway down. You don't have to zoom in on it. You can see it clearly. You see the round area where the anus would be. It's up. It's right. Just divide the butt in two. It's right in the middle there, right where it should be. You guys are all so silent, like, oh my God. It's so clear. I can see it from way back here.
Well, we're just going to have to take your word for it, Doug.
Well, this might be a good time for Bill to discuss all the generations of Patterson-Gimlin.
Yeah, which is, by the way, to me, ultra boring, and we'll lose half our audience. But if you can do it in 5 seconds or 10 seconds or less, he does. He's got every copy you could imagine. How many, Bill?
Well, I don't have them physically. I owned a few, and then some were loaned to me.
Yeah, right. I realize.
In my archive, I've got a listing of 27 known copies that can be individually identified. And I've scanned maybe 8 of them complete and a couple others in part. So it's a pretty substantial archive, yes. Now, in terms of what Michael was saying, I believe it was Michael, about the generational thing in the copies, basically we have 3 categories of copies. We have the Patterson archive copies, which are all full frame contact print. There's quite a few of those around. Then we have the Green to Hinden copy group. John Green and Renee de Hinden took the original to CanaWest Labs in April '68 and had them set it up on an optical printer, and they made a 400-foot Ektachrome master of the whole thing full frame, and then the whole thing zoomed in 2x. And then they did some slow motions, they did some freeze frames, the whole thing on this 400-foot reel, and knocked off a bunch of copies from the Ektachrome. Those are what we call the Hinden Green group.
Yeah, see, I don't want to get into all this, Bill, because if you've done that on all these other shows, I want to cover ground that's going to, it's all great.
Well, what I was
for the record, I think that stuff's fascinating.
If there's some results, from having all those copies, let's talk about that. But just having
okay. Here's the mistake most people make. They look at one copy of the film and they think, okay, I've seen the film. Or they try to take one copy frame by frame and do all their analysis with one copy. That's a mistake. But because they don't have anything except the one copy, they do the best they can, but that's not how you do it. As soon as you see something and say, what is this? You have to look at multiple copies of the film, same frame, and look at that frame over 4, 5, 6, 8 different copies and see how it is represented. Because if anything is altered, on a copy, it won't be on the other copies. Best example, splicing. People find one copy that's got a splice on it, and they say, aha, the film's been copied. The film's been spliced. Proves it's a hoax. So I look at the same frame on 4 other copies, and none of them have the splice. That shows the splice was done on a copy, yes, but not on the original. That's one example. But any other feature of the body, I will look at it in multiple frames, because each frame, in a way, they're all similar in terms of being the same frame, but each has different aspects. Like if you expose the film for her body, then the body is lighter, you see more detail, but anything light's going to wash out completely. If you expose the film for the light areas, like the terrain, her body's going to go so dark you'll see very little detail.
Right.
If you look at a contact print, you're going to see a certain amount of detail that's lost after each generation. But if you look at a zoomed in copy, that process of zooming in and copying actually produces a higher quality copy in terms of close to the original in grain structure. So which copy you're dealing with matters. Now, another thing that's curious, if you have a 4-frame slow-mo copy where they printed every frame 4 times, if you take any 2 of those 4 frames and bipack them in Photoshop, one on top of another, and you switch them back and forth, you'll see what you'll swear is motion on the body when it's actually the film grain changing from one to another, different patterns. And I've seen people do that, and they said, aha, I see your mouth opening, or I see your eyes blink, or something like that. And they don't realize what they're looking at is grain and noise instead of real motion. You have to look at multiple copies to actually get the best understanding of this film. And because no previous researcher understood the value of multiple copies, they never went there, and they never discovered the things that will be revealed by that. So that, in a way, puts me ahead of pretty much everybody else in the game, is that by having multiple copies, as soon as you bring up anything you want me to look at, I'll pull up 5 different frames from 5 different films.
Right, and then you can layer them and do cancellation of grain annulment.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, grain nullification as well, which sharpens things up by taking several of the same frame, putting them one on top of another, aligning them perfectly, and then blending them together. You're literally phasing out the film grain while increasing the image detail. So the image grain nullification as well is something that I've worked on that no one else could do because they didn't have enough copies.
Yeah.
So having the copies is a tremendously valuable research resource in itself that nobody before me realized because they didn't really fully understand the nature of film, the nature of copies, what was lost, what can be recovered.
And okay, all right, that's plenty on the film. It's just goes nowhere to me.
Honestly, I love that stuff.
Well, I realize, Jeff, but I don't want to lose my whole audience.
I get it. I get it.
18,000 freaking copies about a film.
But the
frame, but the grain, where it gets rid of all of the artifacting that's good to hear about that, and he's done that clearly. But one of the things I want to talk about is your personal relationship with Patricia Patterson. I had one, talked to her, probably 150 times on the phone, and never did she ever, and I questioned her on it after I got to know her, especially about any foolery or fakery with Roger. What was your relationship, and what did you find out?
Okay. The relationship started with a film company called Base Productions doing a documentary called American Paranormal Bigfoot. They wanted me in it, and I wanted to do the best possible scan. And it was believed at the time that the copy Patricia had that she kept in her safe deposit box in the bank was the best copy available. We believed it to be a first-gen copy, and we hadn't found any other first-gen copies. Okay. Base Productions actually negotiated the preliminary for me to go to Yakima and actually scan Patricia's film in her home with her watching, because she wouldn't let it out of her sight. Then Patricia and I had to kind of negotiate the agreement. That got a little frustrating and a little bit tense, and she actually admitted she was getting nervous trying to do this. But we finally finalized it. We agreed on, signed the document, sent them up to her. She approved. The film company or TV company arranged for me to go up to Yakima for a few days and go to her home. She would get the film out of the safe deposit box for me to look at, and she would be there in her living room with me. And I brought my scanner with me, actually, literally packed it in my luggage, brought it to her home, set it up in her living room on the coffee table. And she watched as I scanned her film frame by frame. I did it once full frame and I did it once in a zoom in. Now, I was probably there 4, maybe 5 hours, and she was there the whole time. And we had a lot of time to chat. It was a very, very pleasant conversation. And I pointed out a few things to her. She also showed me she had some 4x5-inch transparencies made from the original film, which are among the best versions of those select frames. They're just gorgeous. They're flawless. So she allowed me to scan those as well. And in one of those transparencies was the first time that I saw the camera ID mark completely intact, because when you copy it, some of the camera ID mark gets masked off by the guide rollers that are controlling the film going through the printer. So some of that ID marks clipped off on every copy that I'd seen, including the one I was scanning. But in the transparency, the ID mark was intact. And I actually pointed that out to her. And she was quite impressed by that, it not only verified the camera used, but the fact that it was intact verified that this transparency was made from the camera original, not from a copy. Okay. Anyways, we had a conversation for, I'd say, a good 4 or 5 hours. And then I went home, and what I had to do, I had 22 gigabytes of scan, and I promised her a copy of everything. So I had to go home and in the hotel burn 5 or 6 data DVDs to get all of this onto the DVDs, and then took them back to her the next day before I went home. So she had a complete copy of all of the scans that I had done. That was part of our agreement. At no time did she ever indicate that she thought anything was a hoax. Okay, never, not a hint. Now, another thing, though, curiously happened. I began to suspect that Roger actually did get a costume, and he actually did get Hieronymus to wear it. And they went out in the woods and filmed it, and it was nothing, and they laughed at it and just put it on the shelf. It's not the PGF. But I believe Roger actually did that, because a guy named Harry Kemble wrote a declaration letter in 1999, sent to a film company that had just done a documentary about it, where he said he was working at Cano West Labs in '67, and Roger came in with footage of his tall friend of his in an ape suit walking around in the woods, and they all screened it and they all laughed at how phony it was. Now, this guy, Harry Kemble, in his declaration says very specifically, the film that Roger brought in was shot on high-speed Ektachrome, that it was force developed. He used the phrase, it was cooked in hot soup. That's a phrase for overdeveloping to compensate for underexposure. We often call it pushing the film. Okay, he said the film was cooked in hot soup. He said Roger was zooming in and out. And in a later follow-up, Peter Byrne, who talked to this guy, he indicated that he seemed to remember Roger talking about shooting the film with an Aeroflex camera. Okay. So now Kemble is laying out these very specific specifications. Kodachrome, Ektachrome stock, not Kodachrome. Force developed in hot soup, which makes it incredibly grainy. Had a zoom lens, shot with an Aeroflex. Okay. Technically, none of that matches the PGF, 0. And researchers, Peter Byrne, Chris Murphy, others who tried to address Kimball's letter said the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He says it's a PGF, but technically he's describing something that's a total mismatch. Okay, so they just dismissed the claim as nothing. But when I studied Roger's other documentary film, I found out Roger did shoot ectochrome as well as Kodachrome. There are two reels that are so grainy it's scary that could only be done if you force develop or push film. So Roger's done it. There's some of his footage, he's using a 10-to-1 Ingenue zoom lens, 12-120 lens. So Roger's using a zoom lens on some of his footage. And some of his footage was not shot with a K100 camera. It was either a Bolex or an Aeroplex because it doesn't have a camera ID mark. So when you look at Roger's other documentary footage, Harry Kimball's statement suddenly makes all the sense in the world. It matches technically exactly Roger's other footage. So in my interpretation of this, I think that film that Harry Kimball said he saw with Roger, with a guy, a friend of his in an ape suit running around in the woods, I believe Roger really did that. And it's probably Bob Hieronymus. And it probably looked silly as all hell. And after they saw it, Roger just put it on the shelf and said, okay, forget it. That's no good to me. That's not going to be usable in my documentary. And then he went on to Bluff Creek and had his real encounter. Now, once I suspected that, I sent Patricia a letter. And I said, I think Roger may have gotten a suit, put somebody in it, and had him run around in the woods. And I was trying to see if I could persuade her to admit to knowing about that by saying, if such footage exists, it could be very valuable to a documentary company that would pay a lot of money to be able to show that footage and discuss how it fits into the whole thing. So I was kind of hinting like, if it really exists, you can make money. And she answered me back very specifically, said, I have absolutely no knowledge of anything of that sort. And I do not think Roger did anything of that sort. So that's going nowhere, you know. There's no money to be made because I don't think that exists. So she had an opportunity then to make any kind of hint, confession, whatever, if she had doubts about the authenticity of the PGF. She had a perfect opportunity to express it to me, and she did not. So if the documentary Capturing Bigfoot is suggesting she feels that way now, I would have to wonder who manipulated her memory or who sort of pushed her to try to go into the doubting category, because in all my contact with her, she never had a doubt. It was real.
Well, it sounds like it was you, Bill. Just kidding. Bill, so I think in Capturing Bigfoot, I've read that either Clint or Patricia claims in the documentary that they saw someone burning, or they saw Roger burning a suit.
That's the son, Clint. Yeah.
So you think Clint saw that?
I think it's possible, yes, that Roger, the suit, if Roger did do this and get a suit and put Hieronymus in it, like I think, then yes, after the PGF, he might have thought, well, if I keep this suit around, people are going to think I faked the Bigfoot footage in Bluff Creek, and I didn't. So maybe it's better if I get rid of it. I could see him burning it. Yes. Just because he didn't want to invoke any more controversy. He was on his mission to convince people the PGF is real. I could see him thinking, well, this could muddy the water, so maybe I should just get rid of it. So I believe the son may have actually witnessed that, you know.
Okay.
But if he did witness it, that's the costume that he would be witnessing being done, probably the Morris costume that Morris claims that Roger bought from him, you know.
Well, I've also heard, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No,
I've also heard.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. I've also heard someone say that they saw the documentary and they claimed that Hieronymus had said, well, I was in the actual PGF film and it's the same suit, but I wasn't in the new reel that was found. What do you think about that? If that's in fact what is represented.
Why do you rehearse one actor and then fire them and hire somebody else who wasn't at the rehearsal and expect him to do the same thing? Now, when I was in college, I was a theater and film arts major. I know about rehearsing for plays, and I know about rehearsing scenes for movies. You don't rehearse one guy and then fire him and hire somebody else with no rehearsal and expect him to do what you rehearsed. So that right there just blows that completely out of the water. If, as they say, this footage is a rehearsal, it only makes sense if it's the same person in both performances and it's the same person directing both performances. And if you can't prove that, talking about rehearsal is just laughable. You know, anyone who understands performing arts knows, okay, if you have a rehearsal and then you have a performance, it's got to be the same person. If it's not, you've just completely destroyed your credibility right then and there. But with Bob Hieronymus in particular, I believe that Roger actually put him in a suit, and I believe he actually was running around the woods wearing it. But it's not the PGF. Okay, that's for sure. It is not fake. It's not a human in a costume, to a certainty. So that's not Hieronymus. But I believe Hieronymus did that. But you must understand, when you put a person in a costume, if they don't have a full-length dressing mirror they're standing in front of, they don't know what they look like. And when you're walking around performing for the camera, you're looking at the ground in front of you so you don't fall. You don't see what the background is behind you that the camera's picking up. So the reality is Bob Hieronymus very likely didn't know what his own footage looked like. So over the years, his memory could have evolved very easily as more and more skeptics keep saying, yeah, it's a hoax, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. And finally he said, well, if it's a hoax, then that's probably me. And I think his memory evolved to the point that he honestly thinks that's him. Okay, it's not, but I wouldn't fault him that he thinks that's him. And because he thinks that's him, he could probably even pass a lie detector test. I think he had, because he thinks that is correct, but that doesn't mean it is correct. So there's a big difference there. There's a whole gray area. But that's my take on the whole Hieronymus story.
Well, let's talk about the joint ratios. People are claiming, oh, they match human exactly. Bill, what say you?
No, they don't. Patty has very short legs, a long back, and very long arms. While that is not exactly out of human range, it is so abnormal as to be incredibly rare. And oddly, the only people who come close to that in general, a long torso and short legs, are people who are very short, like under 5 feet tall, 4'6", 4'8". They often have a longer torso and a shorter legs. Okay, but 6 foot tall people, the legs are longer than the torso. That's typical of a human. When people get taller and taller and taller, they get that height in the extended length of their legs, much more so. And their arms are nowhere near as long. So people have actually studied this with basketball players and their tip-to-tip arm span, called their wingspan in basketball vernacular. And some basketball players have extraordinary wingspans. Their arms stretched side to side, fingertip to fingertip. The measurements are more than their height. But that's a very rare human being. What you're seeing on Patty's anatomy is extremely rare. You know, I can't say that it's absolutely out of human range, but it's very, very abnormal. And usually We only see any proportions like that in torso and leg on a short person.
Well, yeah, because, okay, but doesn't it bend where the forearm would be? Basically,
the shoulder, elbow, and wrist all bend in correct proportion. So that's not an arm extension on a costume.
That's what I'm saying.
That screws up the ratio of upper arm to lower arm. So shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist has a certain proportion that's natural. When you put an arm extension on for a costume, typical for a gorilla suit, you're shifting the wrist about 3 or 4 inches further away from the elbow. So you completely screw up that ratio of shoulder, elbow, elbow, wrist. And we see the proportions perfectly on Patty. That's a normal, natural arm. That is not a human arm with an arm extension.
No, Bob, one of the first things he told me in talking to him was that when he saw this thing, it looked like a quarter horse size. I mean, it was just massive. Mm-hmm. And he was very disappointed when he saw the film, how small it looked compared to what he saw with his own eyes.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So what sense do you get as a costume maker as to the size of this creature? The width of the legs, the width of the height, just everything in size.
Well, the bulk is very, very interesting because you'd be very hard pressed to find a person who has that kind of bulkiness about their body, where all you needed to do was put fur on their own body and you got Patty. You'd almost invariably have someone who was much more slender, and you'd have to pad out the costume. And as soon as you pad out the costume, then you pretty much destroy anything that could be attributed to natural movement, because padding doesn't move, not at all. It just pushes the fur cloth out until it's taut, and then it'll wrinkle occasionally here and there, but it won't shift in any natural sense. So that kind of bulk is the opposite of what you would expect in any kind of a costume. Yeah. You look at the mimes in 2001: A Space Odyssey, the Dawn of Man sequence. They're incredibly skinny. They're skinny as can be, because if you had a person like Patty is bulked up, if you had a person who actually had a body like that and you put them into a fur costume, when you put somebody in a fur costume, that holds all their body heat in, and they can overheat, they can sweat profusely. I mean, a couple of pounds of water. And if you sweat enough and you lose enough water, the electrolyte function of your body shuts down and you pass out. That happened to a guy, I believe his name is Don McLeod, in a film called Tanya's Island. He was wearing a full suit and he was running around in it, and he wasn't watching his own body, monitoring it. And all of a sudden he just keeled over flat, and they had to get to him, break him out of the costume, get an emergency airback helicopter, fly him to a hospital, and they got him there and pumped him full of fluids and electrolytes to try to get him back to consciousness. I mean, they nearly killed him in that costume filming Tanya's Island back in 1980, I believe it was. And that's the danger of a suit. Now, you get somebody bulky and you put them in a suit, they're going to overheat so quick, it's going to be scary, and they're going to be falling down, passing out real quick. That's why you use a skinnier person, and you try to leave room in the costume so that some air can try to circulate inside it just to keep them cool.
So this is pre-Gatorade days?
Oh, yeah.
Is there any other film clips over, the years that you think that are real, other than the Patterson-Gimlin film that's been caught?
I haven't seen one that I would endorse. There's a couple where I can say I can't reach a conclusion. I think one called the Memorial Day footage, the thing running off in the distance that people are watching. I think that's it. There have been a couple I've seen where I can't make a final determination, yes or no. But I have not seen another single piece of footage that I would wholeheartedly say, yes, this is real.
What would you get? What would you guess the weight of Patty, if you had to guess?
Oh, that's conditional on the height, and I'm still having
Obviously,
some
I'm
problems.
looking for kind of a range, lowest, highest.
Well, if we were to assume that she's 6 feet plus, 6'2", 6'3", thereabouts, a lot of estimates have given on that, I would think she'd be over 300. Yeah.
Now, what would be the max weight, do you think, on her?
Well, that's a funny way of calculating, because when you increase size, weight increases by a cubic factor of 3 times itself.
Exponentially, yeah.
Exponentially, yeah. So if she's only like 10% taller, she's actually like 30% or more heavier.
Wow.
It kind of goes up in a funny range that way. So if you were to add maybe 6 inches to what I just said, you'd bring her up probably another close to 100 pounds just by increasing her height by another 6 inches. So if you went into the high range of 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", she'd probably be at around 400 pounds.
All right, let's switch to another guy that very few people know about. That was, as far as I know, hired to examine the Patterson creature, the film, the PGF film. And as I understand it, I don't know if it's true, but I was told he was hired basically to debunk it for a science institute. And his name was Jeff Glickman. I have a copy of the Glickman report. Michael, you have a copy, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So Jeff Glickman, I don't know exactly what he was paid, but he was some kind of forensic film guy. Maybe you know more about it, because Michael's one of the few people on Earth that's actually talked to Jeff. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. Bill and Chris Murphy saw him in 2009.
Yeah, his home.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow.
I spoke
with
him.
Let's just talk about his opinion, both of you guys.
Okay. Well, first, he was hired by Peter Burns' organization, so he wasn't really hired to debunk it.
Oh, okay.
He was hired to analyze it.
Okay.
And see what determination he could make. But the NASI was somehow connected to Peter Byrne, actually.
Okay, because that's what I remember, the NSI, yes.
The funding for it, yeah. So Jeff had a background in image analysis, forensic image analysis, mostly for criminal investigation, scientific investigation, things like that. Apparently he had no background whatsoever with the Bigfoot phenomenon. But he was asked to analyze the Patterson film, and the copy that they arranged for him to use was Patricia Patterson's archive copy she keeps in the bank. Now, Patricia told me that she actually had her lawyer hand carry that film on the plane flying back east to meet with Glickman, because he was back east at the time. And she literally stood over him the entire time that film was scanned. I believe it was scanned on a Silicon Graphic workstation, which at the time was top state of the art for computer image scanning and such. Anyways, Patricia's lawyer, a woman, literally went with the film and never let it out of her sight, and then brought it home to Patricia. That's what Jeff Glickman actually scanned. Now, the sad thing is, when I met him in 2008, 2009, when Chris Murphy took me over to his house, he said he was completely out of it. He'd forgotten a lot of what he even had done. And the Silicon Graphic scans were of an image file format that modern computer imagery doesn't even read. So even if you had those scans, you couldn't actually refer back to them. But Jeff did not remember a lot of the details, like he didn't remember the resolution he scanned them at. It might be in the report, I'm not sure. but at the time I talked to him, he didn't seem to recall. And so he really couldn't tell me much of anything about his analysis. Now, one thing which is curious is, I don't say this to demean Jeff Glickman in any way. I understand as a forensic analyst, he's considered one of the best. He's a serious expert, but he missed the fact that Patricia's copy was second gen. He was told it was first gen. He seemed to believe it was.
Gotcha.
But when I scanned her film, I discovered it was second generation because the copy stock had a 1980 date code on it. And the contact prints that Roger made were made in late 67, like November, December 67. So they would not have had film stock with a 1980 date code, but Patricia's copy had that. And Patricia's copy also in the head leader had Eric Beckjord's address written on it. It didn't have the B-E, it had C-K-J-O-R-D, and then had an address on the head leader. So what happened, sadly, was that Eric Beckjord borrowed Patricia's first gen copy, had a copy made, and he gave her back the second gen and kept that first gen for himself. Eric Beckjord basically stole Patricia's first gen copy. And then when he was dying around 2010, he tried to sell it for $1 million, but didn't get any takers. And then finally started giving away copies to people when he knew he was going to die soon. And gave one to a man named Bruce Maccabee, a physicist that he had been friends with. And I
knew Bruce. Yep.
Yeah, he gave Bruce a notarized letter that said, "This is the best copy of the PGF around. It's very valuable. I want you to have it." And he signed, notary stamped that was his signature, truthful statement, everything, except Bruce Maccabee's copy was just a second gen that had damage to it in several ways and was not remarkable. So this notarized letter was a lie, sadly. And we don't know what happened to the first gen when Beckjord died. We do know for a fact, though, that he switched copies and gave Patricia a second gen. Now, why Jeff Glickman didn't find that when he did his analysis, I don't know. That confuses me because I spotted it pretty quickly.
Okay, but let's talk about what was actually on the film. What did Glickman conclude?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I haven't read his report recently, so I would not be the best person to try and summarize his report.
What I remember is he absolutely said it was a real creature.
Yeah, I believe it was something to that effect. But again, I don't want to specifically say, announce something because I haven't looked at it in a while. The one thing I had concern with.
I sent a copy.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Mike?
I sent a copy to Jeff so he can put it up, but Bill, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. My concern with Glickman's determination was his attempt at trying to scale Patty's height. There was a man named Michael Hodgkins who was photographed standing in the Bluff Creek site with an 8-foot measure bar that he's holding up. And Glickman used those photographs to try to scale Patty comparatively. Now, I doubt that that's a correct comparison because we haven't factored in the simple reality that when you take a photograph, a three-dimensional world becomes a two-dimensional image, and depth perception is compressed. You lose your sense of near and far.
So they had to stick too far away.
Yeah, I don't see any way. Man, I've actually done trick photography with foreground miniatures, playing with this lack of depth perception to make little things big and big things small. I've done it. So I know the technique very, very well. Because I know the technique and I look at the evidence in that Hodgkin photo and I look at the evidence in the PGF, I cannot see any way that he could come to the determination that they were in the same position in terms of distance which would be necessary to compare their height. So I have to disagree with his determination about her height, because I don't think the evidence.
No, I realize, but I'm just trying to get to the fact. Another forensic examiner examined the footage and came to some conclusion that it was real.
Yes, that is correct.
I mean, obviously we can argue all day on the height or this or that or what mistakes he made, but I don't want to get sued by him either at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, he runs a business based on his stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, you know, when he's searching for Amelia Earhart's airplane, you know, I'm sure things like that, he does an incredible job. And I've seen his computer. He's got a supercomputer in his home.
Yeah.
You know, it's in a refrigerated room, and it's like 3 racks of CPUs. There's got to be like 40, 50 CPUs ganged together. So he's got a computer in my wildest dream I never even get close to.
Well, how did your conversation, Mike, go with him?
Well,
I mean, sorry.
He called me last night, and we chatted for a while about this, that, and the other thing. But on the Patterson-Gimlin film stuff, he basically said he doesn't have a personal interest in it, so he hasn't followed what's been happening with it recently. And he said he was paid to do the report. He did the report, and that was about it. So I didn't get the feeling that he's interested in the topic because, A, he said he wasn't interested in the topic, at least not anymore. And, you know, he only does stuff he gets paid to do. So he said that he would be willing to have a conversation with me after the documentary comes out if I had any other questions about his report or, you know, what's in the documentary. But I'm not sure that he's willing to do it for free. So, you know, we'll see what happens after we all see it and if it even makes sense to give him a call back.
Is there anything that you can summarize from what you read in his report?
Well, is Jeff still on the phone? Because
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to get I'm trying to get it to
okay.
Because I'm trying to get it to format that I can pull on screen here.
Okay, because I took a
put it up. If you have it in front of you, Michael, just tell us.
Well, it's kind of long. I could read it.
No, you're missing my point. What's the summary? What does he say?
Well, if I were to summarize it, I'd say, you know, he does not, you know, he did this report in 1998.
Yeah.
He does not think it's a forgery. He thinks it's real. He thinks it's a real animal. He doesn't think that a human could, you know, basically replicate the walk and the costume and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
And just so you know, he thinks that Patty is or was 7 feet 3 inches, and plus maybe a little bit more, 3.5 inches, or I can't remember exactly what he said. But if Bill doesn't think that's right, you know, it probably could be smaller or bigger. But I've heard also Gimlin say that Patty was 7 feet 3 inches, although he also has said 6'2". So who knows what he remembers? But keep in mind, Gimlin was on a horse, so he had probably a different view than Roger and his camera.
That's a good point. I once again, it just sticks in my mind, him telling me how huge it looked in person.
Yeah.
He said the muscles rippling, and he said it looked like a quarter horse, but how very disappointed he was when he saw the film.
Yeah, well, keep in mind these guys were ready if something were to happen and it became aggressive, or if they got into a situation where something where they felt that either his life or Roger's life was in danger. They had guns. He had a 30-06, right, Bill?
Yes.
Which is a whole nother story. The reason I mentioned that is because we haven't gotten to that yet. But Gimlin had a 30-06, and he was ready to use it if there was an opportunity where he could get a shot to protect Roger. So we'll see what happens in the And also going back to capturing Bigfoot, there is a Gimlin-like character in the beginning of that 40 seconds, if I'm correct, Bill. There's a cowboy character, but it's not.
Yeah, there's a cowboy character on horseback at the beginning of the capturing Bigfoot footage. Yes.
Okay.
He's on for a few seconds.
Okay, but you don't think it's not Bob, because I don't think Bob says.
I don't know. I can't recall clear enough to make a determination.
Okay. Well,
what is the most convincing aspect for you, Bill, as to the reality of Patterson, the Patterson creature? Is there one thing that just really stands out? Like, oh my God, that's just smack you in the forehead.
Yeah, shape and size of the head.
Okay.
Nobody's been able to do it, not from 1930s to today. Rick Baker couldn't do it. Stan Winston couldn't do it. John Chambers couldn't do it. Stuart Freeborn couldn't do it. Dick Smith couldn't do it. Bill Tuttle couldn't do it. Nobody can do it.
Okay, so, and to explain a little bit more, the head would be, okay, let's say you did make one and you put the head big, then the body would be too small, but you'd have to make the body bigger to match this giant head, and then you'd have a real strange situation going on.
Yeah, you look at the size of the head compared to the length of the arm, and you can see right away, that head's awfully big. Because with makeup, with costumes, with everything, we can only add to what the human brings to it. We cannot subtract. So in order to try to make the head look different in its form, like make it look like it has a very low sloping forehead, you have to push the brow ridge way out, an inch or more out from the actual face. To do that, you have to push the muzzle out even further, so the mouth is further extended than the brow ridge. And then you have to push the back a little bit to balance it out. By the time you're done, you got this huge head.
Yeah.
It's twice the size of the human head inside it.
Yeah.
And that's a reality when you try to make any kind of an ape head on a human.
Yeah, and especially with Patty with the sloped. I mean, it does slope dramatically.
Yeah.
And that would have been avoided. If they're going to fake something, they're not going to try to incorporate the slope.
No.
And somebody mentioned, why don't I contact the professional media guy, Eric Palacios? I've had Eric on my show like 5 times. And I did call Eric to discuss this, and he didn't call me back. So there you go. And I love the way you're framing a professional media guy. Okay, what am I? I've been doing journalism for 40 some years. Oh my God.
Bill, are you planning on making a dive into this new clip once it comes out and showing what you think about the head and all that? Are you planning on debunking it?
I can do it if I can get stills. Yeah, but I have to have still frames to do any kind of analysis.
They would have to.
So if I have it, yes, I will do an analysis. I have a feeling that the people who have the film don't want me to see it, don't want me to do an analysis the way I typically do. So I think they're going to try to keep it from me as long as they can. But if I can get it, I will do a very rigorous analysis. I'll publish it somehow.
Now, Day Trooper says, I keep hearing from skeptics that Rick Baker said Patty was clearly fake. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mr. Munns?
No, he wasn't. They're misquoting Rick. In maybe the 1970s, possibly, when Rick was starting out and just starting to make a name for himself, he was approached, I think by DeHinden, I'm not sure, and a man who's a friend of his, Bob Burns, a film editor who also did guerrilla costume work, oddly enough. Rick and Bob Burns got a copy of the film, probably supplied by DeHinden. And as I understand, they threw it up on a Moviola, which has a screen for 16 millimeter standard screen is about 4 by 6 inches. The bigger screen is maybe 5.5 by 7 or 5 by 8, something like that. It's not a really big screen. And on a Moviola, you can freeze frame it on any frame, or you can run it forward or backward. You can run it slow or typical speed if you got a wild motor and a sync motor. You can run it standard speed, or you can slow it down with the wild motor. And they were looking at it just on a Moviola. And they thought at the time that they saw something suggestive of a water bag in the belly, which a famous gorilla maker named Charlie Gamora had done in the 1940s. In the 1940s, Charlie Gamora did the best gorilla suit anybody's ever seen. It's actually quite magnificent as they go. And it's rumored that he had a big water bag in the belly. So when he was on all fours with his arm extensions, so the arms are longer, that the belly might have a natural sway to it. That's the story, the legend, you might say, that goes down through makeup artist folklore. Now, Rick and Bob Burns issued some kind of a statement that they thought they saw evidence of this water bag in the belly. Well, that doesn't work if you're walking standing up. That works only if you're on all fours, quadrupedally walking. Okay, Patty's not doing that. But I've looked at it and I've never seen any indication that she had enough belly to have any kind of a water bag in it. A further consideration, though, is the fact that even if Charlie Gamora put that into a gorilla suit, there's no evidence that it actually worked. You can't look at any movie that he performed in that gorilla costume and look at the footage and see, you see, there's where the belly's moving. That's the water bag. Now, a curious thing about makeup effects is sometimes we build things into them hoping the effect will work, but it doesn't. It doesn't work the way we planned. But if you just tell people what you built into the suit, in their mind, they sometimes think they see it on the footage. It's the power of suggestion, actually. So it's possible Charlie Gamora tried this and put a belly pad of water in his gorilla suit, and it didn't really do anything noticeable. But people watching the footage would swear, oh, that looks so real. Yeah, there's a bag in the tummy that makes the stomach sway back and forth. People, by power of suggestion, might think they're actually seeing it. I haven't seen any footage that would verify. So we don't even know if Charlie Gamora's technique worked. Okay. But anyways, Rick Baker and Bob Burns, when they analyzed it, they did give a statement that they thought they saw evidence of a water bag effect in the belly. Okay. That was their remark. I think Rick did some kind of an interview with Geraldo Rivera when he was doing Harry and the Hendersons. And I think he talked briefly about it. And he was also saying that the fur photographed like fake fur. Now, I've worked with fake fur. I've worked with real fur. Like the original King Kong that Rick did where he was playing King Kong and he sculpted the head. That was all bear skin. That was real fur. But if you look at that and if you look at fake fur, to say one photographs differently than another, I'd have to be a little skeptical of that. I'd like to see, okay, where's the study of how real fur photographs and how fake fur photographs to determine that you can tell one from the other. So without disrespecting Rick, I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. I don't know how he made that determination that, oh yeah, it looks like fake fur, because I look at it all the time. I don't see that.
No, I compare it to a gorilla. It looks so good.
Yeah,
the way sunlight hits real hair is amazing compared to fake.
Yeah, but another thing to consider, fake fur, when it's manufactured, it's virtually identical in density and length, in texture, whether it has a guard layer and a base layer underneath it or just guard layer, whether it's tipped on the end or whatever, it's identical. The whole run of the fur, the whole bolt of 20 yards or whatever is virtually identical. So when you make a suit, With fake fur, the fur over the body is identical all over the body.
Yeah.
But Patty isn't. It's short, it's long, it's bushier, it's flatter.
Different colors.
Different tonalities, different reflectances. That's what happens on real fur. It doesn't happen on fake fur. So this idea that, oh yeah, it looked like fake fur, I have to respectfully disagree on that. Now, the latest that I've heard, this is just through the grapevine, so take it for what it's worth, was that Rick retracted his previous comments and was now totally non-committal. He would not comment on the Patterson film now. That's the latest that I heard.
Yeah.
I actually sent him a letter, a nice private letter, no fanfare, no publicity, just a simple letter. And I said, Rick, you may know I've been studying this film for a number of years. I have a fabulous collection of image material to work with. If you would be willing to sit down with me and just go through this and talk it through, I would welcome the opportunity and I'd supply you with as much image material as you might need. I just want to get to the truth.
That'd be a great debate.
And I would enjoy you doing it. He did not answer me back.
Yeah, of course.
So.
I love how they were saying how, like, oh, Eric saw the movie. Well, that's like he saw it for 40 seconds. I've been studying the Patterson footage for 40 years. Huge difference between 40 years and 40 seconds. And, you know, he's never studied the Patterson footage. He does FOIA requests, and I really respect Eric for what he does, but God dang, stay in your lane, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just
well, and I mean, there's lots of examples, Doug, of evidence that you found that you immediately send to real experts. You know what I mean? You've done that countless times. You get real experts involved. They did not do that. I mean, why is that film not available?
I was never contacted as an example.
Well, they got Bill.
But he didn't get a chance to completely examine it. He looked at a short section of it.
That's not the way you do it.
That's not a thorough examination. Kind of a cursory examination.
What you do is exactly what you do is you give the person a month to examine everything at minimum.
Yeah,
in hand.
That didn't happen.
Like I did. I don't know how long did I give you, Bill, on the Patterson creature when we did MonsterQuest? I think it was.
Yeah, it was months. We were prepping it.
I didn't exactly ambush him. Show him it and go, Bill. I want to interview you right now on what you think this is. That's what I mean by an ambush.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great tactic.
It's a great tactic. If somebody doesn't have a lot of very high quality frame prints from the camera original itself, scanned directly from the camera original at like 4K or something, if they don't have that, they don't have the evidence to make any
exactly. And the thing is that gets me is if they were really after the truth, they would have allowed a lot of time and been very open with this new find, even long before they made the doc. They made the doc kind of, and then they already made their mind up, and then it's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
So I just I don't have a lot of respect.
I would have done a very comprehensive analysis at no charge if they would have simply given me the material.
Right.
And I would have given them a full report, tell them exactly what it is, what we can determine from it.
Give you the whole reel, not selectively just give you 40 seconds of how many feet was that reel?
Well, the reel was 100-foot reel, but they only shot the 40 seconds is about 1/5 of it, maybe.
Yeah. So what's on the rest of it? That's my question.
Yeah. Probably nothing.
Probably nothing. But
that also was strange.
But it's the old thing. It's the old saying, Bill. We don't know that.
Yeah. But if you were going out to film that rehearsal, to go to all the trouble, having the costume made, getting the people together, renting the camera or borrowing the camera, buying the film, all of that effort, why would you only do it once? If you got a bunch more film, if you only shot 28 feet of film and you got 80 feet left on the roll, why don't you shoot more tries?
Well, the other thing I don't like about it is they went
try
after
from another camera angle. Why don't you shoot up the whole reel?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody is a filmmaker when they go out to a location, shoots one take and wraps it up and walks away. Nobody does that.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
right.
the most common thing in the business. No matter how perfect that first take is, the standard words coming out of the director or the producer or the AD's mouth is, okay, that was perfect. Let's do one more.
So doesn't it make you suspect that they didn't show you the whole damn thing then?
Yeah, it is, because if in fact there's nothing else on it, that's the weirdest filming I've ever
Well, then
imagined.
they should have said there's nothing on it. Here it is.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah, I would definitely like to know what is on the rest of that roll.
Yeah.
And
I also just loved how they selectively let's forget about the footprints. We're not going to even bring that up.
no,
In other words, it's basically a hit piece. And the people like Eric have, I think, attacked people, and certain other people have attacked people without really thinking about their expertise.
yeah, there is a lot of that going on.
It's terrible.
I have friends who watch all this stuff on YouTube, and there's a whole tribe of people who are just tearing me apart left and right.
Oh, it's terrible.
Because,
Disrespectful.
I laugh at it, but it's going on. Yeah.
I like this comment a lot by Day Trooper, because this is something I think about all the time. Like, all the grief that Patterson got over this, why wouldn't he have gone to Hollywood and been the best damn suit maker on the planet and made a fortune?
Yeah.
Would that have been a way better path? That just doesn't make
absolutely.
sense. That'd have been way smarter. That's the first. I mean,
Sure.
Anyways.
Hey, can I ask you a question, Bill? When they teed up, okay, so they interviewed you for 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, by the way, we found this footage."
Well, they told me about the footage. They told me a little history. We found some new footage we are going to show you. They would not tell me what it was.
And they didn't tell you.
I knew that going in.
Okay. And then you thought it was something else, right?
I was hoping it was the one that Roger did with Hieronymus that I suspect exists. That's what I was hoping for. Yeah.
Okay. And that one would have been shot after 67.
No, I think it was shot before Bluff Creek.
Oh, you do?
That's the one that the guy Harry Kimball saw at Canna West early 67. That's the one I was hoping to see. That's the one. I have never proven that it exists, but I suspect it did or does. That's the one I was hoping to see, but they assured me it was not that.
But did they tell you? Yeah, go ahead.
The Boeing connection screws up everything in another way that doesn't make a lick of sense.
Okay,
why?
well, let's not.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, so did they tell you that it was shot in 1966? Did they make that determination before they met with you?
No. If they did, they did not disclose that to me. I don't recall it, no. I did when I examined it and found the date code.
So when you heard that they're in the documentary that they went with this 1966 rehearsal film date, that was a surprise to you?
When I saw it and they asked, okay, what do you think? I said, well, coincidence I don't think is 1 in a billion, so let's not even go there. It's either rehearsal or replica. Those are the only two explanations. And I told them point blank, I think replica is the only plausible explanation. So right from the beginning, I let them know that I was favoring replica, but I did say rehearsal and replica are the two alternatives to try to explain this. Yes.
Okay. And then you were going to say something about Boeing?
Okay. The film came from the daughter of a man who worked at Boeing Aircraft, who had it in his home safe or safe deposit box.
Allegedly.
For 30, 40 years. Yeah, this
is all allegedly.
Okay, and this lady, when her father passed away and she examined the stuff that he was saving in his safe, found this film, didn't know what to think of it, and according to the story, she took it to the director of the doc, Mark Evans. and said, how do we see this to know what's on this? Okay. And I don't know why that was such a complicated question in itself. You want to see film, you put it on a projector. If you're a filmmaker, you want to see film, you throw it up on a moviola. I mean, you don't have to ask that question. You know the answer already. So that struck me as kind of odd that they even had to ask that question. Yeah. But anyways, if this were done back in when they say 66, 67 as a rehearsal for the PGF, you would need stills of the rehearsal to take with you on the day you go to Bluff Creek, so you can match your rehearsal. Can't rely on somebody's memory if it's 6 months, 8 months later for a performance. You'd want proof. And you would want to hold on to it. But apparently after this was filmed, the Boeing guy kept it. Why would he keep it? Makes no sense. If Roger shot it, Roger would have kept it. Doug, you know, as a filmmaker, you shoot anything, even if you don't plan to use it, you don't give your footage to somebody else to put in their safe. You hang on to every piece of footage you shoot. It might come in handy one day when you don't expect it, but just in case, you hang on to all your footage. So if this was Roger shooting this rehearsal, why would Roger give it to the Boeing guy? That makes zero sense whatsoever. Okay, that's why I don't think Roger was involved in this shooting, whatever it was. I don't think Roger was involved because he would have kept it. Okay.
Could it have been somebody else? Go ahead. Sorry.
How it gets to this Boeing person who keeps it all these years, to me, that's like a big red flag saying it isn't really that connected. In a way, it's connected in the sense that, yes, there's a similarity, but it's not connected in the sense that it's something that Roger would have needed to keep for himself. So my theory is simply that Al the Outlay probably ordered up a replica when he was planning to show the real film in theaters and tell people this is real. If he's taking people's money and saying this is real, if it's later proven to be a hoax, he's committing fraud. And I'm pretty sure Al, who was fairly savvy about business and not wanting to commit fraud and be arrested for it, I think Al is the one who ordered up this replica without even Roger being involved. I think he showed somebody the Patterson film, showed a costume maker and said, make me something that looks like this. And found somebody to help him film, and they took the film and the prints and everything, and they went out in the woods and they said, let's try to film it as close as possible to what Roger shot at Bluff Creek. And let's see what it looks like. Will it look like Roger, or will it look obviously fake? That's what I think happened. When Al saw this, in my opinion, he took one look and said, oh boy, that looks totally fake and Rogers doesn't, so Rogers must be real. So we don't need this anymore, because I am now convinced that if I promote Rogers' film and say it's true and we take people's money, I am sure I'm not going to be arrested for fraud, because Rogers' film isn't going to be proved a hoax.
Okay, but another explanation is one, as a filmmaker, you got to have B-roll if you're going to edit some kind of doc, and how did it go down? Because remember, the Patterson footage is shot by Roger's POV, his point of view only. There's no story there. So you're going to need B-roll, a reenactment of how the footage was shot. And that's, I mean, you could be right, Bill, but also I really feel I could be right that it's just B-roll to help tell the story. Maybe they were planning on putting it in with the four-walling. Diatley was going to, he paid for the four-walling, I believe, put up the money for it. Right. So, okay. So Roger might have seen that footage that they shot and went, are you kidding? That's horrible. Why do we put that up? People are going to get confused, or who knows what. Or Roger also just wanted it for B-roll, or Diatley wanted it for B-roll to pad out. In other words, you got to give the audience a little more than just showing the Patterson footage. So maybe we explain with a little reel on how it was made, a reenactment. So,
well, if I were, okay, to answer your question, Doug, because of my filmmaking background, having worked on a number of films, and I know exactly what you mean about shooting B-roll. We usually call it coverage. You know, we've got to cover ourselves with different angles and everything else like that. If that was Roger's concern to develop B-roll, as you call it, or coverage, as I call it, he would have shot something recreating him and Bob riding to the point, the horse is rearing up, his jumping off the horse, his getting the camera, his running forward while he's filming. So he could say, when he's showing this in the theaters, this is basically what happened when we saw the creature. He would shoot something like that. He would not shoot another person in a costume and as any B-roll. He would use nothing but the real footage, but he would shoot footage of him reenacting what he did. That would be the ideal B-roll I would see him doing.
I have an alternate theory. Number one, could it have been that this guy just said, "Hey, I could film a thing just like that," and he went out and he tried to do it, and he just put it in his safe and got found by his daughters?
You mean the Boeing guy?
Yeah,
that's possible. That's possible. Yeah, Eric Beckjord did it. You know.
Well, I can fake it. Why don't I go out and just make a video? Me and my buddy will make a film. I work in a film department at Boeing, and they're not going to miss a couple rolls of film if I use it up and develop it.
Yeah, that is an entirely plausible scenario. Yes, that someone just literally.
In other words, it was somebody that. So it was just somebody just random. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be. Yeah.
Unless they establish a connection between this guy and the Pattersons or Datley or whatever. But the other thing is why do you need to film a rehearsal? Just if the suit looks good, just go out and film whatever you're going to film.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you need to rehearse it? You don't
why
rehearse
do you need to rehearse it. And why would you make a rehearsal?
There is logic to that. You have to find out how the suit photographs. How good is it?
Take photographs.
The only way you're going to find that out is to film it.
Well, I'd say you could just take photographs.
I can see that.
I would just use my eyes. Just look at it and go, nope.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see this documentary because, and I can't wait to hear the story about why we haven't seen it yet. Because I think people want to see it, and are they trying to? I'm sorry, is that?
That's an echo, I think, from Bill.
Oh, sorry. Bill, are you doing something there? It was working so great before.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so
yeah, I know.
I think I was just saying that I don't really. I mean, I can't wait to see this thing because it could be that maybe there is something there, and they're just telling us a great story, and maybe there's some juice to it, but maybe not, and maybe that's why they can't sell it. Either that, I can't imagine that there aren't. If there is really that much interest in this, I can't believe a Netflix or a Paramount Plus or an Amazon Prime wouldn't just say, okay, we're going to buy this thing and start showing it immediately. But it could be that they're waiting for.
Would have closed the deal by now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to hear the story about why this thing isn't out yet. As well as
how can they prove that it's pre and not post? I mean, I don't get that.
Yeah,
they've never been addressed.
That, and I've never seen any evidence that would support making that conclusion. I keep begging for it, but I've never seen any evidence. So I don't have a clue.
So Bill tells it, he did all this, and we all know people. We've all seen the film. Doug's seen the film. We all know that to us that Patty is real. The only way they could have made a costume to look like Patty is to already have seen the film. You know what I mean? And try to get as close as they could to her, and then film it. So that's more. Makes more sense that they did it post than pre to me because If the costume doesn't look like Patty on the film pre filming, then it's not the same costume. What, did they make another costume? They do a retake? I mean, so that's...
No, well, what they're doing is a logic trick called circular logic. They're trying to say it must be a rehearsal, ergo the PGF must be a hoax, which was the final product, the final performance, okay? So they're trying to say the rehearsal proves the PGF is fake.
They have to call it a rehearsal, or their film, the whole premise of their entire film is...
Yeah, but you have to, in true logic structure, if you want to try to say it's a rehearsal, you have to prove the PGF is a hoax by some other process other than this footage, so that it's conclusively a hoax. Then you can say this is a rehearsal for that proven hoax, but it's not a proven hoax. So you have a logic circle that's feeding itself, even though it's totally unsupported by any fact, of implying, because this is a rehearsal, PGF must be fake. But logic doesn't work that way. But they're trying to pull a fast one on people and make people think that's how logic works. And most of these YouTubers who are screaming, yeah, that's proven a hoax, done deal, we won, yay, you know, the crazy guys on YouTube doing all that, they're using that same logical fallacy.
Well, according to some of the accounts that I've seen, they say the documentary basically starts with Jeff Meldrum and Jeff saying it's a rehearsal and then getting all teary-eyed because he's seeing his theories flash before his eyes. And I can tell you that as someone who worked with Jeff on the book, I did not receive a phone call from Jeff about this like Doug did. Jeff would have called me and said, "Oh shit, we got a problem here with the book now." I did not get that "oh shit" call. And since then I've talked to his wife and I asked her if she heard anything from Jeff about it, and she goes, I don't remember hearing anything from Jeff about it, which is kind of interesting.
I would have expected Jeff to contact me too.
Okay, yeah, Jeff didn't even, he didn't really care. I mean, it was just a normal thing. He was like, told me about feeling uncomfortable, like, oh, this is coming, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it was a very small part of our conversation. He never once goes, oh my God, the Patterson footage is not real, or didn't say anything.
If he had any doubts, I'm the first person he probably would have said, Bill, bad news. You know, we're crushed, because I have more invested in it being real than probably just about anybody else that Jeff knows. So if he in his heart felt, oh, this is bad news, he would have contacted me. You know, and he didn't. So he wasn't concerned.
No, he didn't. He certainly didn't seem concerned to me.
No.
And they're saying how concerned he was. Like, okay.
It's so creative. It's so distasteful to use him after he's passed too. That's just distasteful. I don't know. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, he can't be here tonight to defend himself.
I don't like that.
Okay. Well, there was something important I wanted to go over. Oh, the footprint cast. Let's talk. Put up 59D, Jeffrey.
Sure.
And then put up one of the. Can you put up two pictures at once or just the one?
Just one at a time.
Oh, okay. That's obviously a footprint. That's a pretty big track compared to Roger's foot. And I don't know, why they didn't address the footprints. What are your feelings, Bill and Chris? You can chime in. Everybody can chime in on this one.
Well, do we know for sure that they didn't? Do we?
Yeah, I think we do. Probably unverified, but we probably do.
Who addressing the footprints? Who do you think addressed the footprints or did not?
In the new film,
I don't think they addressed him in the film.
In the new
I don't
film.
know. I haven't
In the new
seen
film.
it all. Yeah, I haven't seen it all, so I don't know.
I've just heard it's all just hearsay, unverified crap. But
Yeah.
I've heard from unverified sources that they didn't address the footprints, but I don't know.
Oh, okay.
And the patty casts, I think they're 15 or 14. I've got one. I can go
14
grab
and
it and
a half.
measure it.
Yeah, I've got one
14
too.
and a half.
14 and a half. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And Jeff based his whole career studying those footprints. And boy, when you look at the bottom of the foot, go ahead and put one of those pictures up. Even that enhanced one, you really see the foot. And boy, does that ever match.
Which one?
50D or whatever. I don't know. I'll tell you. I will tell you. Put up.
Yeah. Either Stevachrome 61 or 72.
Yeah, I
know
was
you
hoping
got
you were
your
going to
numbers.
supply some really good scans.
Yeah.
They were so high res, I couldn't fit them in the email. 52D, throw that up. 52. I'm just saying the footprints do look amazingly like.
52D is the rear shot that we showed before.
Yeah, but it shows the foot, Jeff.
Oh, I got you.
Shows the bottom of the foot.
Right.
And we addressed the hairline on the gorilla footprint, which is amazingly fake looking. Put up that gorilla footprint, Jeff.
It I agree. It does.
It looks fake, but it's real. It's just a bottom shot.
I mean,
of a
it looks like the
foot.
cuff of a bottom of a pair of pants.
Yeah, it just ends abruptly, just like Patty's, and it looks fake as heck.
Yeah.
And what would you guys do? Would you like brush the hair down? Probably not even a natural look, but you probably would brush the hair down, right, Bill? On a costume.
Sure. Of course.
Well, real gorilla doesn't even have that. It just kind of ends. It looks like a costume, but I can assure you that's not a costume.
Yeah, I mean,
you can go to a zoo. You can go to a zoo and just sit there and look. Although I think a wild gorilla is going to have more wear on the hair than one in a zoo.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That comment's definitely unverified.
By the way, just for clarification, is it hair or fur?
It's hair.
Okay.
Well, they're the same thing.
I don't know the difference.
It's really about the density. Because fur is hair. There are hair follicles.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the differences, though, is that fur often has two different types of hair follicles. It has guard hairs and base hairs. The guard hairs are long and stringy, usually straight, and the base fur is very kinky or curled or balled up, which is your insulation. So fur typically has both guard hairs and base hairs. Hair, something that is hairy, has just the guard hair or the hairs themselves, but doesn't have the two different types. So you look at us, we have hair on our head. It's one type of hair. It doesn't have guard hairs and base hairs. So that's probably the distinction between hair and fur.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. Didn't get a chance to show this. That's you sent me a clip. Just because we're talking about it so much, we should at least see a little clip of it, shouldn't we?
Of what?
Oh yeah.
It's just something to look at.
It's so smooth, yeah.
We've seen it all 1,000 times, and it's still
very smooth.
It's still just remarkable.
And there's no water belly.
Oh yeah, I know what I wanted
bouncing
to
around
discuss.
in there. Look at that. There's no water belly. There's no.
As people go, well, if it's real, why did it walk out in the open? Well, I can give you a ton of scenarios.
Yeah,
One,
a lot of theories
it's got a
about
young
that.
one stashed somewhere because it does have engorged breasts, which means it definitely had a juvenile. It's got a juvenile somewhere in its wings. I think it was just leading Bob and Roger away. just exactly like the Freeman footage, like the memorial footage.
Yep.
When they're out in the open, they're like, here, follow me. It's a protective thing.
4th of July footage at Shaver Lake there. It goes behind the rock and picks up the little one. All the good footage that, everybody has their own opinion. That's mine. Has a baby involved.
Yeah.
There's a certain reason why they catch them. And because I think it's because
I'm not sure the Shaver is real. There's a lot of red flags on that one. But the ones where it's out in the open, not in the brush, I do kind of suspect, it's just a theory, but I suspect that it's leading those guys away from its infant.
Yeah, that's a solid theory.
Mode. Because otherwise it could have just taken a left right into the forest. And then they could have followed it and maybe stumbled upon an infant that can't exactly get away, maybe. We don't know how young that infant may have been. But no, there's no infant in the Patterson footage. That I'm sure you agree with that, Bill. It's Patty and Patty only.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who tried to find a baby in there and swear there's one, but no, there is not.
But what do you think about that theory of just doing the kill deer and just leading those guys away?
It's a credible thing because it does occur in nature. Yes.
Yeah.
No question, it is credible.
Yeah. So that's it's just my thoughts, and because I've seen that pattern in other footage, I believe is real, and I find that too much of a coincidence, especially with Freeman, because in that one I discovered it looks like a baby being lifted with the legs wrapping around the waist of the mother. It's it had to be pretty tough to fake that. And it's pretty clear after we cleaned it up. It's pretty damn clear. Those are little legs. As it lifts it up, you can see the head. Then you see the small legs in the Freeman footage. And that one walked out in the open. Go ahead, Bill.
It's actually an assistant director with a fanny pack on his leg.
It could be, yeah. Yeah, you never know. Exactly.
Yeah, more IMAX footage.
That's the thing. And Bill, we could be wrong too. There's still that. We say 100%, but I always leave a little margin of room for somehow that we haven't thought of, like how they got it. They actually used a guy with no forehead. There's always
exactly.
It's a far removed chance.
I have tried diligently to find anything that would give me even 1% confidence that it's faked. I mean, the things I've looked at, the things I've studied, nobody would normally think to even consider. And I can't find a single element that I could say that's suggestive of a hoax. I mean,
well, do you do the same thing I do? I have like a score system, red flags. It's so many red flags.
Yeah.
I find 3 red flags. I don't even want to talk about it or think about it anymore.
Uh-huh.
And with the Patterson footage, there are 0 because it's
absolutely 0. And man, like I say, I've looked at things nobody else would even think about. And I still can't find one.
Jeff, that's good. We don't need to have that up.
Okay. I just like looking at it.
Yeah, I know you can look at it in your own privacy. Everybody can. That stuff's all over the internet.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's throw up the digital face, it's still interesting. It's all, fascinating, but it does show the sloped head, what it would take to have a human in a suit, and that's that 56D picture. It was done forensics and just basically using all of the frames that show the face, and a guy from Sony did a pretty clear sketch over. And then you forensically try to eliminate the thing. But it looks very... would you agree that Patty has high cheekbones, Bill?
Oh, yeah. Yes,
okay.
I think so.
All right. So high cheekbones, very almost Native American looking. which is interesting. Once again, is that a coincidence? It looks Native American. I don't know. But when you remove the hair, it probably could get by at Walmart. No one would even do a second look.
Yeah.
I don't get the Walmart joke, but
in other words, if you removed all the hair off Patty could just be out in public.
Oh, okay.
And who's going to look? They're going to go, oh, that's a big dude or that's a big woman. But they're probably not going to go, oh my God, that's a Bigfoot. They're not. They're just going to think it's another person. We all look so different, Michael. You know, they might say, oh, that guy's a little weird or that woman's a little weird, but they're not calling the police.
Yeah.
They're not going to call the police other than the very sloped forehead. But I've seen, I guess I if I think about it, I probably have seen one or two photos of somebody that exists. Unfortunately, Bob Hieronymus doesn't have a sloped back forehead.
No, he does not.
No, he doesn't. All right, let's wrap this up. That's enough. Thank you so much, Bill. I'm sure you're hungry and tired. I have to tell everybody it's like, we got him up at 6:45 this morning.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, I have one more thing if we have any time at all.
Sure, go ahead.
So Bill had showed me, and Bill, you can tell me if you don't want to talk about this, but Bill had shared with me a letter that he received from a guy by the name of Bruce Bonney through Jeff Meldon. And this was back in like 2018, 2019, 2017.
17. Yeah.
2017. Is this a subject you want to talk about or don't want to talk about? I think it's interesting.
I have no idea if people who are listening.
It might be a little bit much, Michael. I'd rather not go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really would.
It's a whole story unto itself, and if you don't have enough background, it really doesn't seem relevant. So
it isn't relevant to the footage.
Bruce Bonney was a researcher, an image person, a photographic person who worked with Rene DeHenden and made Cibachrome copies from the camera original. And those copies are some of our best prints of the film. So Bruce Bonney is connected because he made those images from the original. So people know who you're talking about.
Yep. So maybe it's it's a subject for another day.
That's a whole thing unto itself. That's a really specialized one.
Yeah, it's a mystery. But I think it may lead, I guess, just to summarize, it could possibly someday lead to the original film.
Yes,
possibly.
That is possible. Which we didn't really talk about because we skipped over all the different versions and stuff out there. But I think one thing is clear: the original film is lost, right? Or it's being held by somebody secret.
We don't know conclusively its whereabouts. That is correct. Yeah.
Now, Dreamtime brought up the bulge again. We've actually even had a surgeon in here. They recognize that also as this femoris hernia, called by, there's also a scientific name. It happens when women are pregnant, and then that hernia travels down to the femoris, and that's a femoris hernia, and it bulges out when a costume would be tighter. So it does the opposite, and it does it with the right timing, and it looks like it's a hernia caused by pregnancy, and her breasts also suggest that she was pregnant at some point because of the engorged breasts. Wouldn't you agree, Bill, we could safely say her breasts are pretty engorged?
I would think so, yes.
Yeah. Obviously, it's unverified, but it kind of points that direction.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's
Bill, is that an artifact, or is it in the best version of the film that you have?
What is an artifact?
What I call the golf ball or the ball.
It's in all of them.
I've seen it in varying degrees in different copies, yes.
And what's the best version you have? Is it
offhand, for that feature, I don't remember which is the best version. I've looked at, like I say, 4 or 5 different versions of it. But I haven't studied that in quite a few years, to be honest with you. So I would hesitate to, just throw out some kind of a conclusion without reviewing it myself.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Got to know your limit.
Somebody asked, well, how do we know that breasts are firm? Well, we don't. It's unverified,
No.
but they're not floppy, so they're firm. They don't look like they're deflated.
Well, they have fluidity, but yeah. So there is definitely fluid inside there. But unlike some human females where the breasts almost deflate like a balloon with all the air let out of it, no, it's not that.
Yeah.
There is fluid, and the breast has a fullness to it because of the fluidity.
Yeah,
Yes.
engorged. That's the term. I've got 6 kids. That's what we call it when there's breast milk in the breast.
And I'm sure that would be very difficult,
When you've seen
though,
it
right?
as many times as I have.
Yeah.
To hide the
there's
seam for that, to hide the seam for that breast like that would be very difficult to do, without being noticed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's another complication.
Yeah, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to buy any of this. You don't have to buy Bigfoot even. So no one's asking you to buy anything. This is we're just trying to get. There was a bunch of claims made, and if you buy those claims, then you're in good company. A lot of people do, but we feel differently, and our claims are just as valid as theirs. Probably more so because we've got many years studying the footage, and the producers of that film have very little, and I think that's pretty verified. The producer isn't even old enough to have studied it. I've studied the Patterson footage way longer than he is even old. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bill has too. So there you go. We have many years of trying to debunk the footage. That's what people don't understand. We're looking for the red flags. We're looking for the seams. That's what we've been doing. And when you can't find it, you keep looking and you keep searching. And we haven't been able to find it. And that's the God's truth. I'd love to be the guy that could debunk the Patterson footage.
There's this huge misconception that people on our side of things want to believe everything. And that is completely divorced from the truth. There's all kinds of stuff we look at and we immediately are like, no, that's crap. Well, thanks. Not interested. I mean, we debunk stuff all the time.
Fakes. I've called more fakes than I have real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah,
me too.
absolutely.
My God. It's like 500 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm not one of those idiots that just goes, everything's real. I'm not that guy. And you obviously didn't watch the beginning of the show where we showed where me and Bill debunked a footage that still most people think is real. And we clearly debunked it. Throw that picture up again. It's like if you joined late, go back and watch the rest of the show before you start accusing us of things.
Let's see here.
Hey, Jeff, while he's doing that.
So that used to be a Bigfoot. That's an IMAX. That's the IMAX movie, they call it the Great North Footage. And everybody, including me and Bill, thought it probably was a Bigfoot on all fours hunting with a baby on its back. Now show the real one. All we did, it only took me like 10 years to get a hold of the footage, and then $8,000 I spent to debunk it of my own personal money. So there you go, stuff it. We're not here trying to just convince people Bigfoot's real. We're trying to get to the truth. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
That's what Bill is doing. I hired Bill at one point to debunk the Patterson footage, to study it, look for, what's wrong with it. I don't know what Bill's going to come up with, but I gave him plenty of time to do it. And I cannot help that he came up with the fact it's 100% real. And that's just the way it went down.
That's it.
And he's qualified to come up with those conclusions where many people who are making wild claims are not. They've vested no time in studying the Patterson footage other than just seeing it on occasion. Even Michael can verify that. I say about 1,000 hours into that Patterson footage. Mike thinks I have 2,000 hours.
At least.
Yeah. So there you go.
Highly recommend Bill's book. It's a great book.
I've probably got 10,000 hours in.
Yeah, and I believe it, Bill, because it's not easy. It takes time. You don't just watch it casually. You just come up with a million ways to examine it. Anyhow, Bill's book. Put it up, Jeff. Leave it up. His book.
Hey, Bill has another version coming out, right? Or another book.
Oh.
I'm aiming for it, maybe late summer. Yeah, I'm hoping.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that would be awesome, Bill. But this is When Roger Met Patty. It's a very comprehensive look. And no, Bill isn't behind the Patterson footage because he's trying to sell books. He hasn't probably made enough on that book to even buy you a cup of coffee. So get real. Jeez, I'm so sick of these guys.
I normally average $30 or $40 a month on royalties.
Yeah,
I have my 120-foot yacht on order.
Yeah.
And as soon as I'm done paying off my private jet, I'll
Bill
get
would
my
make
yacht.
a lot more if Bill could debunk and give reasons on all the reasons why he'd make a lot more money. Trust me.
Yeah, I probably would actually.
Well,
Bill, thanks for your work on Beastmaster also too, because that was a major part of my childhood was that movie.
It's a great movie. Fun.
Yeah, it was crazy doing it though.
Any last questions or hold your tongue?
That's all I got. Thank you.
Sorry, I sound feisty because I've been reading these just terrible negative comments from people that have never vested a frickin' minute into either topic. They just, it's a rehearsal because the guy framed it that way. It's fake. Oh, Bob's a liar and blah, 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 blah. You didn't spend any time with Bob. You don't know Bob. You have no right to call him a liar. Yeah. I constantly tell people I offered him $1 million and he didn't even blink. He just goes, Doug, I'd love to take your money, but let me tell you again what happened. So there you go.
Yeah.
Haters hate, man. That's
it's like,
you're in this field long enough. You come to that conclusion that's what they do.
Well, the funniest revelation for me was that in all of my life, I've basically tried to be friendly with people and not make enemies and such. I'm sure I made one or two along the way, but more people hate me now than in the rest of my life combined, all because I simply said the Patterson-Gimlin film is not a hoax. And this whole army of people hate my guts for saying that.
I don't get it.
It's really amazing how that one simple sentence has provoked so much animosity from people who never met me, but they just don't want to hear it. And the fact that I say it, the Patterson-Gimlin film is not a hoax. They're just coming at me constantly. And in a way, it's kind of amusing because obviously they haven't damaged me in any way. No. But the amount of animosity, the amount of hatred and disrespect is truly
But why do you think the skeptics are that way? Why do they have to be so mean about it?
I don't know. I really don't.
Why not be respectful and ask questions?
Yes. Because even when I talk to people who are skeptics, I know I disagree with them, but I don't tell them they're idiots. I don't tell them I hate them. I'll listen to what they say and we'll talk about it. But where this hatred is coming from, and the people who hate me the most won't even read my book or won't even look at a podcast like this where I talk for a couple hours. They literally say it's not worth my time, but I'm still going to hate him for his conclusion. They don't even want to do the homework. Now, when I was looking at Greg Long's book, Making a Bigfoot, I read it. I disagreed with it, but I read it. David Dagling's book, Bigfoot Exposed. I read it. Abominable Science, the chapter on Patterson film. I read it. I disagreed with all of them, but I read every word of it. But the people who want to put me down won't even read what I wrote, which is the funniest part. They go entirely on, oh, well, someone else said this, and I believe it, so I hate Bill. They won't go to the source. They will rather go to the
it doesn't
rumor
make sense. It'd
that
be like,
satisfies them.
that,
It's a very curious mindset.
Well, they could literally come on the show and ask you a question and get it answered. As long as they're respectful, people can ask questions. They're welcome to come on and ask questions. Just be respectful.
Or email me. Ask me a question directly. In my books, my email. I make it very, very public. If someone wants to find me and send me an email, they can. It's not hard to do. And I'll answer the email. And I'll answer it respectfully. They can tell me I'm totally wrong. I'll explain to them why I'm right. But I'll answer them respectfully if anybody wants to reach out, but they don't.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, maybe this is a good time to clear up some rumors about why you're not in the country.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I thought I really got a laugh out of it. Someone said that I was in Southeast Asia because I'm fearing extradition back to the United States, as if somebody's going to arrest me for fraud, because now that the film has been proven, quote unquote, as a hoax beyond any shadow of a doubt, then I must be committing fraud by telling people it's real. So somebody came up with that.
I saw that a couple of times before,
which was absolutely insane. I really got a kick out of that one. The only thing that they could arrest me and extradite me for would be the crime of no good deed goes unpunished. That's the only criminal statute I may have violated.
A lot of retired people move to Southeast Asia or all sorts of places because it's much cheaper to live.
It's simple economics.
Yeah.
Where I live, I can live, rent, utilities, and my food for a month under $800.
Yeah.
Try to do that in America.
Exactly.
I'm living on my Social Security. That's my only guaranteed income. And I started early at 62, so I'm not getting as much as somebody who started later.
Yeah.
So that's my only guaranteed income. In America, there's no way I could survive on that with any kind of quality of life. Yeah. I come here, and on half my Social Security.
Well, the other thing is you just happen to know the language, right?
No, I actually don't. I started learning it, but I haven't really mastered it yet.
Oh, I thought.
But everybody's got a translator in their phone, so it's actually not an obstacle.
That's true nowadays.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
All right. So, any last things here before we wrap this up? I don't see anything, so I think we're good. Jeff, do you want to just say, hang on, everybody? We're going to play our wisdom of the week.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's now time for Untold Radio AM Wisdom of the Week. Propaganda rarely invents reality. It reframes it. Change the wording, remove context, repeat an emotional angle often enough, and people react to narratives instead of facts. That's why independent thinking matters. Question the framing, ask who benefits, compare viewpoints, and do your own research before accepting anyone's certainty. Good night. We hope to see you all next week. If you like the show tonight, please consider giving us a thumbs up, leaving a nice comment, and most of all, subscribing and hitting the bell so you will be notified when a new episode is dropping. Also, please share this episode. Now back to Doug and Jeff for our wrap.
All right.
And we are back. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Chris, for all the excellent questions. And Michael, good stuff. Thank you. Keep going. Don't quit. And yeah, we vow to get Jeff's book out. So
yes, I'm looking forward to that.
We vow. And Bill, if you need any help with your new book, let me know.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm all over to help you. And
yeah,
you are such a brilliant guy. You always amaze me. I assigned him one time to do to reconstruct a skull. Well, to put flesh on a skull, right? Have you remember that project, Bill?
Yeah, the Star Child.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And
the
just
Star Child skull, right.
The skill and the thought process that you put into it is amazing.
Yeah.
And I just always in awe of you. I've been in awe of you since I met you, since I first saw your giganto bust, and your robotics and all the crazy things that you've done. I'm just like, wow, this guy is amazing.
Get the book. It's a great book.
Yeah, get his book. So to get it up to $35 a month. So Bill can enjoy an extra dessert this week.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Anyhow, critical thinking, everybody, and good night. And we love you all. And even people who think the footage is fake, we love you too. So
thanks for watching.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm